Chapter 6:27. What a big tone. You dare to talk big in front of a true disciple before becoming a true disciple. If you really become a true disciple, you will dare to challenge the headmaster. A handsome young man wearing a star crown and feather robe suddenly appeared on the scene. His tone was quite unfriendly, with a hint of sternness. Senior brother Yu. Seeing this person, Li Yan and Long Junyuan's expressions changed, and they quickly bowed. Zhong Wuxiang, Dong Hao, Huolei, Qi Xie, and the others had a serious expression as they stepped aside and bowed. Yu Huatian. Yu Huatian of the moon-reflecting peaks, 5 directions monarch. Supreme Almighty, this was a Supreme Almighty. The moment he opened his mouth, he labeled Qin Feng as a lawless person who didn't know how to respect his superiors. There was a cold smile between his brows as his gaze landed on Qin Feng. What? You don't want to listen to me teach you a lesson? Qin Feng's expression changed. A trace of sternness flashed in his eyes. Although he was furious, Qin Feng really had no way to refute. The other party was a true disciple. As long as a true disciple didn't go too far, no one would pursue the matter. However, an inner disciple contradicting a true disciple was unacceptable. This was disgraceful. The heavenly rules were strict, and each level of the Xingqian school was strict. If there was a violation, a true disciple had the right to take action and even punish the inner disciple. Although Qin Feng had killed the Devil King, who was at the supreme power level, however, he didn't really think that he had the ability to suppress Yu Huatian. Gotcha! Qin Feng clenched his fist. Qin Feng tried to suppress the anger in his heart. Hall Master, should we step in? Greenwood Elder Su Chongqing was a bit anxious. He was the one who raised Qin Feng. Originally, when he saw that Qin Feng was about to become a true disciple, he was happy from the bottom of his heart. However, he didn't understand why Qin Feng would offend the 5 directions monarch, Yu Huatian. Even he didn't dare to offend Yu Huatian. Before the hall master of the Medicine King Hall could speak, Jiang Wei's gaze was indifferent. Junior brother Su, you're too nervous. It's not good for young people to be too arrogant. As the saying goes, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. Only after suffering a loss will the water chestnuts be smoothed out and know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yen Li's eyes flashed. That's right, this is good for these young people. Geniuses nowadays need some setbacks. Elder Su's face flushed red. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. Martial artists focused on advancing bravely. If one's luck was thwarted, not only would there be many obstacles such as inner demons, they might even die. Elder Su had the heart to argue with reason, but these 3 people were the Medicine King Hall's elders with real power. He had the heart but was powerless. Don't fall for it. I must endure it, and I can't give him the chance to make a move. Once I break through to the rebirth realm and split the heavens and the earth apart, I'll surely be able to find this person to wash away my humiliation. At the side, Yen Li, Jiang Wei, and Hua Jiqing watched this scene coldly and did not step forward to stop it. At this moment, Qin Feng's heart was a little cold. Yu Huatian, the more you live, the more you're regressing. As a supreme powerhouse of Xingqian school, the perfected lord of 5 directions, you actually went to suppress a newly promoted junior brother. Your 200 years of cultivation were all for naught. With a trace of wildness, a gust of wind was born from the void, and a figure appeared out of thin air. Dressed in green, with wild hair and a long saber on his back, he was like a god born from countless wild winds, domineering and insufferably arrogant. His domineering eyes sneered at Yu Huatian, full of disdain. Luo Zheng. Yu Huatian's face darkened. It's the perfected lord of wind and thunder, Luo Zheng. Someone exclaimed. It's actually him? He and Zhang Junbao, the perfected lord of Taiqing, are known as the 2 lords of Taiqing Palace. He is one of the 2 deputy palace masters of Taiqing Palace, and is also one of the 2 perfected lords under Palace Master Ji Qingxuan's command. Taiqing Palace oversees a large grotto heaven. Although its status may not be as special as the 10 great divine palaces, it is still extraordinary. These 2 usually accompany the palace master of Taiqing Palace for a long time. They should have nothing to do with Qin Feng. Why would they stand up for him? Luo Zheng, are you going to make an enemy of me for a nobody who hasn't become a successor disciple yet? Yu Huatian, the perfected lord of 5 directions, suddenly had a chill in his eyes. Yu Huatian, don't be long-winded. You know my temper very well. In short, this Qin Feng is someone we want to protect. You can't humiliate him. Luo Zheng crossed his arms, looked at Qin Feng and nodded slightly. How about it? Do you want to fight, or do you want to use your senior brothers to suppress me? In terms of background, although I'm not from Yingyue Peak where the sect master is, the senior brothers of Dumu Peak are not pushovers. Luo Zheng sneered. Yu Huatian's face was gloomy to the extreme. Li Yan and Long Junyan's faces were also somewhat unsightly. Luo Zheng was a scoundrel, but his talent was extraordinary and his strength was outstanding. Among the many successor disciples, he was one of the best. In terms of strength, among the many successor disciples of Yingyue Peak, perhaps only the 3rd supreme of Yingyue Peak had the ability to suppress him. Yu Huatian, the perfected lord of 5 directions, was also very strong. However, in a real life and death battle, he might not be able to win. Perhaps it would be a situation where both sides would suffer. Many inner disciples were silent for a moment. Many people looked at Qin Feng and sighed. Qin Feng's luck is too good. Only a small number of successor disciples were thoughtful. A 15-year-old 4th grade alchemist, a successor disciple. It must be Ji Qingxuan's hand behind this. Luo Zheng has always been a brute. He definitely won't stand up for Qin Feng for no reason. Qin Feng indeed has great potential. If we can gain his friendship, we might as well gain the friendship of a 7th grade alchemist grandmaster or even the hall master of medicine King Hall. Many successor disciples' eyes flickered as they cursed inwardly. Luo Zheng glanced at the gloomy Yu Huatian and walked to Qin Feng in a few steps. Little brother, you did well. I like your temperament. You clearly distinguish kindness and hatred and are not afraid of others' words. Thank you, senior brother Luo. Qin Feng bowed slightly and glanced indifferently at Yu Huatian. If there was a chance, he would repay today's humiliation 100-fold. There was also Yanli, Jiang Wei, and Hua Jiqing. As the elders of Medicine King Hall, these 3 old fogies watched him fall into trouble without doing anything. How hateful! Luo Zheng grinned. Don't thank me. You should thank senior sister Ji. If it weren't for her order, I wouldn't risk offending Yu Huatian to help you out. Qin Feng nodded. Yu Huatian's face was frighteningly sinister as he stared at Luo Zheng and Qin Feng. Coldness surged in his eyes. At this moment, there was a sudden movement from the Demon Refinement Tower. Everyone turned around and saw 2 or 3 streaks of light shooting out of the ancient Devil Refinement Tower in a few breaths' time. Yi Ding, Xing Zhou, Chen Guang. At this moment, the weather on the crystal list changed. 3 streams of light rushed up the list instantly. Everyone hurriedly looked at the crystal list. First place, Pan Wu, 26 points. Second place, Jian Zongyuan, 26 points. Third place, Qin Feng, 25 points. Fourth place, Yi Ding, 25 points. Fifth place, Xing Zhou, 25 points. Sixth place, Dongfang Qinyun, 25 points. Seventh place, Gongsun Hong, 25 points. Eighth place, Gong Yangzi, 25 points. Ninth place, Chen Guang, 25 points. 10th place, Ji Ming, 25 points. 11th place, Chunyu Fengshan, 24 points. 12th place, Bareheaded Crossbow, 24 points. Chapter 6:28. The atmosphere on the crystal list changed, but the young experts below the stage opened their mouths wide. What? 3 changes in a row? How is this possible? All 3 of them are on the crystal list? Li Yan muttered to himself in a daze. This is unbelievable. This is like a dream. Dark horses, and so many of them at once. Demonic geniuses. This is too scary. I thought there was only one Qin Feng at the Sea of Reincarnation Realm, but now there are 3 of them at once. Many young experts looked at each other in shock. In the blink of an eye, Ji Yao, who was originally ranked at the top, was pushed down to the 9th place. Qin Feng's expression was heavy. Yi Ding's growth was beyond his imagination. 4th place. This was second only to him, Qin Feng. An immemorial martial emperor. He was able to become an emperor in the future. It seems like he has extraordinary luck. Qin Feng's gaze landed on Xing Zhou, who was ranked 5th, and Chen Guang, who was ranked 9th. These 2 were also at the Sea of Reincarnation Realm, but he had never heard of them before. Not only Qin Feng, many people's gazes landed on the 2 of them. Whether it was Qin Feng or Yi Ding, there were rumors about them in Xingchen School. However, they had never heard of these 2. The 2 young men, one in black and the other in white, were like 2 calm statues. They were neither worried nor happy about the rankings on the crystal list. Who are these 2 people? Could it be that there are some reincarnated experts in the sect? I don't think so. Before the reincarnated experts in the sect matured, they would cultivate in seclusion in various halls. They don't need to participate in the Hall of Succession. As long as they awaken their memories, they can regain everything, including cultivation, status, and treasures from their previous lives. Many inner sect disciples asked their teachers, but even many of the elders were confused. Only Long Junyan, Li Yan, and some other direct disciples were deep in thought. Suddenly Luo Zheng laughed. They must be disciples from Xingchen School's Grotto Heaven. Xingchen School? Zhong Wu Xiang, Dong Hao, Huolei, Yengu, Qixir, and the other inner disciples looked at each other. Many sect elders couldn't help but nod in agreement. Qin Feng was confused. Native land? Where is this native land? Luo Jing glanced at Qin Feng, blinked his eyes, and said after a moment of realization. Qin Feng, I heard that you are a cultivation maniac, but I didn't expect that you don't know much about the Starland. Speaking of which, the mainland of Xingchen School is not in the core 99 domains, but in the mountains and rivers of the realm of stars. Perhaps you don't know that our Xingchen School is rooted in the realm of stars and has already merged with the mountains and rivers of the realm of stars. Qin Feng was not a country bumpkin. Hearing Luo Zheng's words, Qin Feng instantly understood. You're saying that our Xingchen School is in a grotto heaven hidden in the endless void? Luo Zheng looked at Qin Feng in surprise, nodded, then shook his head and laughed. You're right, but you're also wrong. However, you're about to become a true disciple. Soon, you'll be summoned to the Xingchen School's headquarters and enter the Ancestral Hall. Soon, you'll understand everything. Qin Feng's eyes flashed. Above the void, the 5 experts were looking at Xing Zhou and Chen Guang. Suddenly, Jiang Beiqiu said, This Xing Zhou and Chen Guang did not disappoint us. Although the Starland is not as good as the 99 continents in the Spirit Sea, as long as we train them well, we might be able to cultivate some outstanding disciples. Heavenly King of Purple Thunder shook his head. Xing Zhou is known as the King of Darkness on the Starland. Chen Guang is a peerless genius born from absorbing the righteous qi of heaven and earth. He's known as the Khanate Saint. The 2 of them went through many rounds of competitions. With the countless resources of our Xingchen School, it's not surprising that he's one of the 9 true disciples. Ji Qingxian said. Although the Starland has been refined by countless experts of our sect and has great potential, it's still not a place favored by fate. This is because the foundation is naturally weak. However, this successor ceremony is really full of monsters. You see, other than Qin Feng and Yi Ding, that Wang Daoi and Xinxiu have already entered the 27th level. The 5 of them stared at 2 of the stone doors without blinking. The 2 of them had already passed the 26th level and were heading towards the 27th level. Countless heavenly beasts surged in true monarch refining demon's eyes. After a while, he sighed heavily. That Wang Daoi is amazing. I'm afraid he's the reincarnation of an ancient supreme. What? An ancient supreme? The remaining 4 people's expressions changed. An ancient supreme was the person closest to the position of a demon god. That's right, and he's no ordinary primordial sovereign. From what I can see, his soul is like a ball of extremely resplendent transmigration law. Even my ancient devil refining tower feels a sense of dread from that dense power of law. Ji Qingxian, heavenly king of purple thunder, Jiang Bichu, Shi Xian, and the others looked at each other and gasped. The ancient tower of fiend refinement was an inheritance true treasure of the heavenly beasts' hall that had been passed down for 10,000 years. It had already given birth to a true original spirit and could be considered a living supreme. If even such an existence felt fear, one could imagine how terrifying Wang Daoi was. Venerable Tian Xing told me that this existence will completely awaken in at most 100 years. At that time, he will become the reincarnation demon god. Venerable Tian Xing was the original spirit of the ancient tower of fiend refinement. The 4 sages felt a little dizzy. There's such a terrifying existence in our sect? This, Ji Qingxian suddenly said. Then, do our sect masters and grand elders already know of this person's existence? Perfected cultivator fiend refinement chuckled and nodded. Just now I have communicated with senior brother sect leader. They have long known of this person's existence. Everyone, please do not leak this matter to avoid unnecessary complications. As you all know, our Xingchen school is in a critical situation now. The Demon Temple, the Qiankuan sect, and the Bailing sect are showing signs of forming an alliance. In addition, the Sea tribe is provoking us. If an expert can become a demon god, the effect will be immeasurable. The 4 sages nodded and looked solemn. After a while, Heavenly King of Purple Thunder changed the topic. However, this Xinxiu, perfected cultivator fiend refinement, said softly. Xinxiu is a key figure. He's the reincarnation of a mysterious existence in the Pure Land Zen sect. This person is related to the alliance between our Xingchen school and the Pure Land Zen sect. He's the key figure of the 2 sects and the revitalization of the Pure Land Zen sect. This person also has the potential to become a demon god. Now that there are so many geniuses in our sect, it's a great era, Heavenly King of Purple Thunder exclaimed. Shi Xian's eyes flickered as he said, Indeed. Not only does our Xingchen school have a rare genius, but the other sects also have many geniuses. Some geniuses are even not weaker than Wang Daoi and Xinxiu. With the undercurrents of the 72 sects, our Xingchen school is under great pressure. The emergence of geniuses was a sign of a great era. Boom. At this moment, perfected cultivator fiend refinement's expression changed. He made a hand gesture and 2 figures flew out of the 27th level like tornadoes. Chapter 629. 2 figures landed at the bottom of the ancient tower. One was a ray of divine light. The other was a ray of merciful golden light. The other was a 6 paths Dharma wheel with endless divine light. The other was surrounded by a golden Buddha light, as though a Buddha had descended. Many of the young experts present, as well as the various hall masters and elders of the various peaks, hurriedly shifted their gazes to the crystal list. At this moment the crystal board changed again. First, Pan Wu 26 points. Second, Wang Daoi 26 points. Third, Jian Zongyuan 26 points. Fourth, Xin Xiu 26 points. Fifth, Qin Feng 25 points. Sixth, Yi Ding 25 points. Seventh, Xing Zhou 25 points. 8th, Dongfang Qinyun, 25 points. 9th, Gongsun Hong, 25 points. 10th, Gong Yangzi, 25 points. 11th, Chen Guang, 25 points. They are actually ranked 2nd and 4th. How terrifying! It's over. Gong Yangzi is also finished. He is actually ranked 10th. What an unexpected drop! But who are those people behind? Why haven't I heard of them before? Killing a martial Tao Almighty at the Sea Reincarnation Realm. Such a monster shouldn't be unknown. You don't know this. Most of them are smart people. No one is a fool. Before they grow up, they won't swagger around the city. That's true. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Now that they have become true disciples, they have the initial ability to protect themselves. That's why they are so amazing. Amidst the discussions, some people looked at the 9 young people who were about to become true disciples. All kinds of feelings welled up in their hearts. There were those who were disappointed, those who were jealous, and those who were envious. So many monsters have appeared this time. Qi Yan, who was originally a little worried, was relieved. There was also some bitterness. Taishu Fengyun, Yi Guangji, Yang Chongxing, Gong Yangzi, Zhi Yao, and the others were not far away. As the 5 true disciples were brought out of the ancient tower one by one, this session of the Hall of True Disciples also came to an end. 5 rays of light gradually descended from the depths of the void. Everyone couldn't help but lower their voices and bow. Above the nebula, all the hall masters and peak elders descended to show their respect. The disciples ranked in the top 9 will take a step forward. The disciples ranked below the 10th will automatically take a step back. A faint voice sounded. Qin Feng's figure moved and his gaze swept over. Pan Wu was the first to stand out. Wang Daoi smiled and appeared beside Pan Wu. Like a peerless divine sword, the white-clothed sword Zhong Yuan appeared indifferently. Shen Xiu was handsome and elegant. He was dressed in golden robes that resembled a kasaya but weren't. His silk battle robes weren't battle robes either. He appeared with a fist full of red sandalwood Buddhist beads. The next moment a black shadow flashed. Qin Feng, dressed in black and with shoulder-length black hair, stepped out and appeared beside Xinxiu. Behind him, Yi Ding let out a cold snort and appeared alongside Xingzhou, Dongfang Qinyun, and Gongsun Hong. The 9 of them had special auras, and they suddenly became the center of attention of the entire ancient Devil Refinement Tower. They were like dazzling pearls, dazzling everyone's eyes. Very good, the 9 of you did not disappoint the 5 of us. A faint voice came from the void. You're too kind, perfected Lord. The reason why we're able to have such a performance is because the sect has groomed us with all its resources. Pan Wu, who was the leader, cupped his hands. He was a tall and handsome young man. His body was bronze in color, and his pitch-black hair hung down like a demonic dragon. He had a wild aura. Perfected Lord Refining Demon's eyes flashed with a smile. He glanced at the 9 of them and all the youths present. There's no need to be humble. The fact that the 9 of you are able to stand here among hundreds of thousands of martial artists shows that you're outstanding and hardworking. The true disciples of Xingchen School have always been chosen based on merit. You've defeated all your fellow disciples here, and you deserve this honor. His gaze fell on the disappointed youths of the inner sect. The remaining disciples don't need to be disappointed. The fact that you're able to come here shows that you're the best of the best, the best of the best. Martial artists like us don't always have a smooth journey. We should face all difficulties and crush all obstacles. Only by being indomitable and unyielding can we be worthy of being martial artists. When the disciples heard this, they brushed away their disappointment and said respectfully, "We'll remember Perfected Lord's teachings. We won't let the sect down." Good. You're worthy of being martial artists. Perfected Lord Refining Demon's gaze fell on the hall masters, peak elders, and core disciples. Everyone, thank you for attending this year's legacy ceremony. At this moment, I'll take my leave first and bring my disciples to deliver the decree to the sect master and the peak masters. We don't dare. You're too courteous. The hall masters and elders quickly returned the greeting. Behind them, many disciples were envious. However, there were still many who were disappointed. The most disappointed ones were Chunyu Fengshan, Gong Yangzi, Yi Guangji, Ling Weiyang, Qi Yinyu, Taishu Fengyun, Zhi Yao, Yang Chongxing, and the others. They were also the 12 prodigies, but the other 4 advanced while they were eliminated. This gap made it difficult for them to calm down. Especially when there were 5 C reincarnation realm martial artists who advanced this time. There were also many martial artists who were unconvinced. During the trial in the ancient fiend refining tower, they had not used a part of their strength. For example, the power of the heavenly abode. The strongest power of the martial artists was the power of the heavenly abode. After entering the ancient fiend refining tower, their heavenly abode was in a sealed state and could not be used at all. Among them, there was Zhi Yao. Ever since he was pushed down from 9th place, Zhi Yao's face had been gloomy. In Zhi Yao's opinion, if he could use his heavenly abode, he would be able to suppress several C reincarnation realm martial artists with a single strike. The sect is too unfair. He gritted his teeth, his heart filled with resentment. In the void, the 5 sages attacked at the same time, and their martial Dao light restrained Qin Feng and the others. Don't resist. They instinctively wanted to break free, but a clear and pleasant voice sounded in their ears. Then, a stream of light rushed into the depths of the ancient fiend refining tower. The void was torn apart and countless streams of light flew out. In the blink of an eye, the 9 of them felt that they had suddenly appeared in darkness. After an unknown amount of time. Rumble. In an instant it was as if a layer of heavy clouds had been smashed apart, and the 9 of them saw a grand scene that made their hearts tremble. A huge tree appeared in front of them. It was a huge silver ancient tree. Its branches and leaves covered the sky, and it towered into the endless depths. It took root in the darkest part of the void, resisting the corrosion of the endless void and chaos. Its roots were connected to the boundless silver starry sky, and the starlight gathered, emitting a boundless silver color. What a huge ancient tree! There's actually such a huge ancient tree in the depths of the endless void. Could it be the legendary star ancient tree, a star god's spiritual root? Beside him, a young man with an immeasurable aura, who was like an emperor, could not help but exclaim in amazement. It's not an ancient tree. Qin Feng could tell at a glance that this was not a real spiritual root. Dongfang Qingyun. Gongsun Hong, you're wrong. This is not some spiritual root ancient tree, but the star kingdom of our Xingqian school. What? This tree is where our Xingqian school is located? Chapter 630. This is a grotto heaven that has expanded to the extreme. It's about to become a nation. There was a hint of amazement and disbelief in his eyes. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. A martial Dao powerhouse had opened up an inner world. According to the level of the inner world or its perfected power, it was divided into new grotto heavens, small grotto heavens, medium grotto heavens, and large grotto heavens. Above that was the God-Fiend Nation, or the Pure Land. The God-Fiend Nation already had a portion of the power of the true main world. It could nurture living beings and protect disciples and subordinate. Some God-Fiend nations even had some heaven-defying abilities. For example, they could allow their followers to live forever with the nation and help Zhu Sui escape the 5 decay of heaven and man. Qin Feng felt that the tree-shaped grotto heaven in front of him already had a portion of the God-Fiend nation's power. It was similar to the endless abyss at its peak. At its peak, the endless abyss had countless dimensional planes with the chaotic mainland as its center. It almost radiated tens of thousands of miles of the endless void. The group flew in the endless void, as if they were traveling in the endless void. Qin Feng looked up at the giant tree above him. Although the tree was right in front of him, they always felt that they could not get close to it. The power of the grotto heaven? Qin Feng could vaguely sense a tidal wave of void power from the tree-shaped grotto heaven in the endless void. Anyone who approached would be pushed into the endless depths by this tidal wave of grotto heaven power. Cultivating here was several times better than cultivating outside. Especially comprehending the power of the void, there were many benefits. Qin Feng narrowed his eyes. He could not help but close his eyes as he flew in the wind. The silver flying boat carried the group and flew in the depths of the endless void. It shone with a silver light that illuminated the night in the endless void and dispelled the void storms that were everywhere around them. It was as if they were flying above a void ocean. At that moment, Jian Zongyuan spoke. "There seems to be a lot of fruits on the tree." Xing Zhou looked up. "What's that?" Everyone on the flying boat, including Qin Feng, looked up. They saw many silver fruits hanging on the huge silver ancient tree. The fruits were numerous and emitted a silver light. Each and every one of them was sparkling like a star. What was strange was that these fruits were also doing their best to absorb the chaotic energy in the endless void, causing a layer of gray to appear amidst the silver, like strange patterns. It was a marvelous sight. If he hadn't been paying attention, he wouldn't have even noticed it. These fruits came in two colors, silver and silver gray. The former was bright, while the latter was more obscure. Dongfang Qinyun furrowed his brows and looked puzzled. Could this really be a divine-grade spiritual root? The perfected monarch refining demon was sitting cross-legged on the deck of the small boat with his eyes closed. He was like a ball of silver light that could never be seen clearly. Hearing this, he opened his eyes and smiled. Jiang Beiqiu, Purple Thunder Heavenly King, Shi Xian, and Ji Qingxian looked at each other and shook their heads. "Are these grotto heavens?" Qin Feng muttered to himself. Hearing this, Pan Wu, Jian Zongyuan, Dongfang Qinyun, and the others turned to look at Qin Feng. "These fruits are all grotto heavens?" Dongfang Qinyun's eyes were filled with doubt. On the other hand, perfected monarch refining demon, Ji Qingxian, Jiang Beiqiu, and the other four experts were surprised. Using the grotto heavens of many disciples, it evolved into an ancient star tree. The two are subordinates of each other, mutually benefiting each other. The small grotto heavens used the power of the ancient tree world to condense the grotto heavens, while the ancient tree world used the small grotto heavens as its branches and leaves to condense its own world. This is equivalent to gathering the power of all the disciples to refine the ancient tree world. No wonder the power of the ancient tree world is so strong. He was amazed. At this moment, the perfected monarch refining demon, who was at the bow of the small boat, made a hand seal, and a bright starlight swept over from the ancient star tree. Everyone's expression changed. In the next moment, they realized that the bright starlight was a strange starlight that looked like a tree branch. The perfected monarch refining demon smiled and controlled the small boat to disappear into the starlight. The world spun, and even their five senses were blurred. The 9 young men endured the discomfort. After a while, the starlight in front of them brightened up, and they seemed to have walked out of the narrow alley. They seemed to have squeezed into another world. A beautiful land and mountains appeared in front of them. There was a vast sea of clouds, mountains, and rivers. There were groups of majestic mountains, ancient trees, and ferocious birds in the sky dominated the world. When they turned their eyes, the first thing that appeared in the picturesque world in the distance was Zhou Mountain that supported the world. The magnificent Zhou Mountain, the majestic heaven and earth pass. They could vaguely see that there were countless palaces and buildings on the huge Zhou Mountain. The 9 people were shocked. "Where is this?" "This is the Starland, and also the foundation of our Xingchen school." Jiang Bichu chuckled and looked at Zhou Mountain that supported the sky with pride. Near Zhou Mountain, countless starlights came and went. Auspicious clouds and cranes shuttled back and forth like shooting stars. The 9 people turned their eyes and saw that they were disciples with powerful auras. At this moment, streams of light flew down from the palaces of Zhou Mountain in the 9 heavens. They turned into dozens of handsome men and beautiful women with fluttering feather robes and star crowns on their heads. They tidied up their clothes and walked toward perfected monarch refining demon. Ji Qingxian and the other four were even stronger. They looked solemn and respectful. Disciple Lang Ping welcomes you, supremacies, sect masters, and peak masters. We have been waiting for you in the Tao Seeking Hall for a long time. Perfected monarch refining demon said. So it's martial nephew Lang Ping. Please lead the way. Lang Ping is just an inner disciple, but he seems to have a high status. Qin Feng looked at the silver-robed and amiable young man. Xingqian school had strict rules. Ordinary servant disciples wore the starlight robe. Outer disciples wore the seven luminaries robe. Inner disciples wore the sun, moon, and stars robe. As for true disciples, they all wore star god magic robe. These robes were clearly separated. It was obvious that the star land of Xingqian school had a strict hierarchy. Although there were slight differences according to the customs of each hall and peak, the general principle was the same. Lang Ping was wearing the sun, moon, and stars robe. He was obviously a favored inner disciple of Moon Reflection Peak. A group of curious young men and women stood beside Lang Ping. They looked at Qin Feng and the other 8 people. After a while, the 9 people appeared outside a grand hall. The 5 of them entered first. After waiting for a while, a disciple stepped forward and said, "Senior brothers, please follow me." The 9 of them looked solemn. They glanced at the hall and then stepped into it. As soon as they entered the hall, the 9 people's expressions changed. They felt many gazes on them. The Star Venerable, the current sect master, was in the middle of the hall. Apart from some of the other 28 peak masters who were in seclusion, the rest were all seated. Everyone's eyes fell on the 9 youths who walked in from outside the hall. Chapter 631. Sect Master, Senior Brothers, these 9 are the inner disciples who stood out this time. True Monarch Refining Demon cupped his hands. Previously, I was ordered by the sect master to set up the trial in the ancient tower of Refining Demon and promote the direct disciples. Today, the successor ceremony has ended successfully. I, Yang Wanli, will submit the order to the sect master. The Star Venerable nodded and smiled. Good. Junior Brother Yang, thank you for your hard work. Everyone, please take a seat at the side. True Monarch Refining Demon, Jiang Beiqiu, Heavenly King of Purple Thunder, Shi Xian, Ji Qingxian, and the others bowed and retreated to the side. The sect master and the peak masters looked at each other. After a while, a handsome young man wearing a silver star god robe stepped forward. 9 inner disciples, please step forward. Greetings, sect master, peak masters. And good. The Star Venerable nodded. Peak masters, what do you think of these 9 disciples? Very good. This batch of 9 disciples has 5C of reincarnation realm martial artists, which is rare. This is the first time in the history of Xingqian school. However, to be able to pass the 25th round, it is enough to show their ability. The Jiamu Peak Master smiled. According to the rules of the past, the 9 inner disciples who passed the successor ceremony can choose to join any of the 28 peaks except for those who have a background or a master. The Wei Hua Peak Master said, 9 disciples, you don't have to worry. Some of you might come from the 4 great temples. However, the 4 great temples and the 28 peaks don't conflict. The 28 peaks are the place of true inheritance. Perhaps you don't know, but among the peak masters here, some of them are the temple masters of the 4 great temples. For example, the head of the Alchemy Temple is the head of Yihua Peak, the head of the Heavenly Works Temple is the head of Shin Mu Peak, the head of the Myriad Stars Temple is the head of Nu Tu Peak, and the head of the Star Monarch Temple is the sect leader Star Venerable. The 4 great temples and the 28 peaks don't conflict. Many of the direct disciples of Xingqian school came from the 28 constellation peaks. The 28 peaks of Xingqian school were the 28 main veins. They were named after the 4 directions starfield. Among them, the East called it the Azure Dragon, Horn Wood Dragon Kong Gold Dragon Earth Raccoon Fong Sun Rabbit Heart Moon Fox Tail Fire Tiger Winnowing Basket Water Leopard. The South called it Vermilion Bird, Well Wood Ghost Golden Sheep Willow Earth Deer Star Sun Horse Zhang Yu Deer Wing Fire Snake Chariot Waterworm. The West called it White Tiger, Kuei Wood Wolf Lu Jean Dog Stomach Earth Pheasant Mouse Sun Chicken Bayou Black Turtle Fire Monkey Ginseng Water Ape. In the north, it is known as the Black Tortoise, Diamu Uniu Taurus Nyo Nu Tu Fu Su Sun Rat Wei Yu Yen Room Fire Pig Wall Water Yu. However, if you've already gone through the ceremony of apprenticeship and confirmed your master-disciple relationship, then it can't be changed. When Qin Feng heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Actually, other than the 28 peaks and 28 inheritances, there should be another inheritance. That was the Heaven's Punishment Palace. The Heaven's Punishment Hall originally belonged to the Star Monarch Temple, but as the Heaven's Punishment Hall fell, the successive generations of Heaven's Punishment Hall masters came up with a new inheritance. However, the Heaven's Punishment Hall had a special status. Although it had become independent, it had never made a name for itself. The representative of the Heavenly Punishment Palace in the Tao-Seeking Hall was perfected monarch fiend refinement. This was the Grand Elder of the Heaven's Punishment Hall. Originally, according to the inheritance of Xingqian school at its peak, the entire core sect had 28 inheritances, and each peak had one. However, as the world changed, some of the inheritances of each peak had been lost. The 28 peaks now were no longer the 28 peaks from 10,000 years ago. At this moment, the Ghost Gold Peak Master said, "That's enough, senior brothers. Don't play around with your calculations. Let Marshal Nephew take out his credentials. There are 28 inheritances in the 28 peak. Let the 9 disciples choose for themselves. If they feel that the inheritance of a peak is suitable for them, they can enter that peak. The 9 of you have similar aptitude. We can't make a fuss for the sake of 9 disciples and do something that will make the disciples look down on us." When he said this, the peak masters looked at each other and cursed silently. Who doesn't know that your Ghost Gold Peak is declining? You don't have the capital to attract disciples, so you use this method. What did the 28 peaks rely on? Of course, it relied on the support of the disciples, especially the outstanding disciples. The 9 disciples in this batch were all talented and had amazing luck. Which of the 28 peak masters didn't want more geniuses to support their sect and share their worries? Now, with the Ghost Gold Peak Master's words, no one had a chance to compete. The sect leader Star Venerable glanced at them and smiled gently. "Well, if any of you have a master, you can step forward. If you don't have a master, you can choose to enter the peaks. I believe that with your aptitudes, talents, and luck, the peak masters won't humiliate you." After that, the sect leader Star Venerable changed the topic. "Of course, you can also choose to enter my Moon Reflection Peak. My Moon Reflection Peak is very powerful and has produced many strong cultivators in the past. We also have 2 true inheritances. Among them, the Sky River Righteous Technique is known as the Sky River Righteous Technique, which is famous for its long Qi meridians. It's a supreme true inheritance that leads directly to the Tao of the Star River. There's also the Dezhou Stars God Slaying Sword Technique, which is all-encompassing. If you cultivate the Deshang Sword Technique, you can evolve a boundless star region with a long sword. Becoming a star god is definitely not a dream." After that, he continued, "In addition, as the sect leader of Xingqian school, I believe that I have some skills in teaching disciples. I won't humiliate my disciples." The peak masters of the 28 peaks were speechless. In fact, the sect leader's peak of Xingqian school was very unique. Whichever of the 28 peaks was in charge of the Moon Reflection Peak would automatically move into the Moon Reflection Peak. The previous sect leader came from the Heart Moon Peak, so the Heart Moon Peak would automatically become the sect leader's peak. This time sect leader came from the Sun Pleiades Peak, so the Sun Pleiades peak would automatically move into the Moon reflection peak. Naturally, the Heart Moon peak that originally lived in the sect leader's peak would also move out of the Moon reflection peak. The 9 peak masters' expressions changed slightly. The Moon reflection peak was indeed very tempting in the eyes of the 9 peak masters. As the current sect leader's peak, the Sun Pleiades peak did indeed have an advantage over the other peaks. However, Qin Feng rejected this option first. Whether it was Gong Ao or Long Junyan, who tried to suppress him, Yu Huatian all came from the sect leader's peak. Moreover, he was a true disciple of the sect leader's peak with great influence. Before the 28 peak masters could react, the sect leader's star venerable waved his sleeve, and a disciple carried a jade plate to Qin Feng and the other peak masters. There were 9 jade scrolls. The 9 peak masters' expressions changed. Starting from Pan Wu, each of them picked one up. Qin Feng picked one up casually and scanned it with his divine telekinesis. Waves of information appeared in his mind. These were some basic information about Xingqian School. Among them were specific information about the inheritances of the various peaks of Xingqian School. Among them were Moon Reflection Peak Sky River Righteous Technique, Star Cycle God Slaying Sword Technique, Jemu Peak's Azure Starry Sky Restoration Technique, Kongjin Peak's Metal Element Formless Star Scripture, and other true inheritances of the 28 peaks. The information of each true inheritance appeared in the minds of Qin Feng and the other peak masters. We are willing to join the Moon Reflection Peak. Almost without thinking, Pangu Yiding and Dongfang Qinyun all stood up. Qin Feng's eyes flickered. These 3 had obviously been waiting for a long time. Chapter 632. As soon as Pan Wu, Yiding, and Dongfang Qinyun finished speaking, the faces of the peak masters darkened. This year, there were only 9 true disciples in total, and 1/3 of them had entered Moon Reflection Peak. Pan Wu, who was ranked first, was among them. At this moment, Jian Zongyuan and Gong Sun Hong stepped forward. I already have a master. Me too. All the peak masters cast their gazes over. Jian Zongyuan and Gong Sun Hong were famous in Xingqian School's inner sect, and the peak masters were familiar with them. Among them, Jian Zongyuan was the disciple of a sect protector of the Star Sect. Gong Sun Hong's master was Lu Tu Peak, one of the 28 peaks. He was the personal disciple of the current peak master of Lu Tu Peak. Now, 5 were gone and only 4 were left. Wang Daoi, Qin Feng, Xing Zhou, and Xinxiu. Xinxiu smiled faintly. He took a step forward, his eyes calm. The 28 peak masters glanced at him and shook their heads. Xinxiu's inheritance and the ancient Zen sect almost formed a line of their own. Although several peak masters wanted to take this talent as their disciple, Xinxiu didn't seem to have that intention. The only ones left were Wang Daoi, Qin Feng, and Xing Zhou. Qin Feng and the other 2 stood quietly on the spot as they pondered carefully. Xingqian School's 28 peaks. Each peak had its own unique inheritance, and each inheritance led directly to the position of Star God. However, there were some subtle differences. For example, Wellwood Peak's true inheritance, Star Thunder Transformation Technique, was a true cultivation technique that leaned toward thunder element cultivation. If one was a thunder element martial artist, it would undoubtedly be better to enter Wellwood Peak. Another example was Lu Jinfeng's true inheritance, innate golden wind divine record, which leaned more toward wind element cultivation. If one focused on wind element cultivation, their cultivation would undoubtedly be smoother. Qin Feng was looking for a true inheritance related to the void element, or one that leaned toward the void element. However, after searching through all 28 peaks' true inheritances, he didn't find any true inheritance related to the void element cultivation. It wasn't that there weren't any. Among the inheritances of the Void Sun Peak, there was a true inheritance called the Dark Sky 9 Annihilation Divine Art. The power of darkness and space contained a portion of the cultivation secrets of darkness and space. However, this dark sky 9 destruction god-destroying art had long been lost and incomplete. Now, the Void Sun Peak's inheritance was the Dark Yang rebirth technique, which secretly refined the 9 suns and refined the body of the Great Sun. However, other than the Tao of the Void, there were also many Tao of the 5 elements. Qin Feng cultivated the chaotic 5 realms and also had the 5 sacred mountains in his hands. If he could obtain the inheritance of the 5 elements orthodox Tao, it would be greatly beneficial. No matter how many secret techniques he had, they couldn't compare to a true inheritance. Qin Feng had countless martial skills and cultivation methods in his mind, but only 3 of them could be considered true teachings. One of them was the primeval demon heart scripture. This was a supreme chapter of the demon Tao that led directly to the position of the demon god. The second one was the 9th heaven lightning imperial scripture. This was the true scripture of the thunder Tao that led directly to the position of the thunder Tao demon god. The third one was the black tortoise yin yang Tao. Comprehended life and death and connected yin and yang. Originally, this cultivation method was not considered a true inheritance. However, with the addition of the Qiankuan true martial arts and Qiankuan heavenly elephant art that Qin Feng obtained, coupled with the innate yin and yang qi, it had already taken shape. In the future, it would not be an illusion to become a yin-yang great demon god. Let me in! Let me in! At this moment, there was a commotion outside the Tao-seeking hall. The Tao-seeking hall is a solemn place. Who is making noise outside? The sect master Star Venerable frowned. At this moment, a voice came from afar. Sect master, senior masters, junior masters, Li Zhong requests an audience. Qin Feng raised his head and glanced over. After a series of shoving and shoving, a stocky young man entered the great hall. He looked to be about 25 or 26 years old. His face was full of hardships and stubbornness, just like a veteran. The 2 young inner disciples tried their best to stop him. However, they did not have the brute force of the young man and were pushed back repeatedly. They were unable to hold back their anger. Senior brother Li Zhong, don't be too presumptuous. This is the sacred place of the Xingqian school. How dare you make a ruckus here? Leave now, or we will chase you out. I'm not leaving. According to the rules of the sect, that disciple has to give priority to our Niu Jinfeng. The young man's expression was firm. The 2 inner disciples' faces darkened. Let him in. A faint voice came from inside the hall. The 2 young men in silver robes were shocked when they heard the voice. They glared at Li Zhong angrily and pushed them to the side. Li Zhong tidied his clothes and walked into the hall with a determined expression. Under the gaze of the sect master, Star Venerable, and even Qin Feng, he knelt down on one knee and bowed. Martial Uncle Sect Master, Martial Uncle Peak Masters, please uphold justice for this disciple. The sect master Star Venerable frowned and his eyes were sharp. Li Zhong, why have you come here? Do you know that trespassing in the Tao-seeking hall is a serious crime? Li Zhong glanced at Qin Feng. His expression was fervent with a hint of excitement. Qin Feng looked at his expression and was stunned. Li Zhong bowed again. Sect master, please listen to this disciple. After this disciple has finished, Li Zhong is willing to be beaten or punished by the sect. The sect master Star Venerable's eyes were sharp. No one knew what he was thinking, but he suddenly sighed and waved his hand. All right, tell me, what is it? This disciple is here for the inheritance of Niu Jinfeng. As soon as he said this, the sect master Star Venerable and the peak masters looked at each other and revealed an expression that showed that they had expected this. Niu Jinfeng was now declining. According to the sect rules, if no one succeeded the position of peak master in 300 years, the inheritance would be sealed. Today, Niu Jinfeng only had 3 disciples under the age of 15. The inheritance was about to be destroyed, or it would be absorbed by the peak masters. Sect Master Star Venerable, Peak Masters, Martial uncles. Martial uncles know that Li Zhong personally selected a junior brother in the freshman training a year ago. According to the sect rules, he should belong to Niu Jinfeng. A year ago, the freshman training. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. In an instant, all their eyes fell on Qin Feng. A year ago? Qin Feng's eyes landed on Li Zhong. A year ago, wasn't that the time when he participated in the trials of Shuiyu? Among the 9 youths present, he was the only one who was a second-year student of All Stars College. The sect master Star Venerable asked the direct disciple sitting down. Disciple, you were the one who organized the previous training. Is this true? The direct disciple wearing the purple star god robes stepped forward. Reporting to sect master, this is true. At that time, junior brother Li Zhong was late, so he personally selected this junior brother Qin Feng as a preparatory disciple. The sect master Star Venerable and the peak master's eyes flickered. They all thought that Li Zhong was lucky. With a casual pick, he had picked a monster. The sect master Star Venerable's eyes flickered as he said, Li Zhong, although that is the case in our sect, apprenticeship is voluntary. What's more, you, Niu Jinfeng, are now declining. Your resources are almost gone. How can you raise a direct disciple? This? Li Zhong felt as if he was struck by lightning. For a moment, the hot blood in his chest was suddenly poured by cold snow. I went for a blind date today, so I was a bit late. Chapter 633. This was something that had to be done openly. Since the great change in Niu Jinfeng hundreds of years ago, most of the spiritual mountains and herb mountains had been lost. Although there were still some left, they had declined over the years and were gradually annexed by the other peak. Now, Niu Jinfeng was just a mountain peak's name. If it wasn't for Li Zhong's hard work, it might not even be able to keep the mountain peak's name. Looking at Li Zhong, the Star Venerable's eyes flashed with a trace of pity. Li Zhong was also a genius. In terms of aptitude, he was second to none among the many inner sect disciples. In the eyes of the heads, he originally had a brilliant devotion and had a high chance of becoming a true disciple. Unfortunately, he was delayed for too long because of Niu Jinfeng's inheritance. 50 years ago, Li Zhong was already an inner sect disciple at the peak of the Sea Rebirth realm. 50 years later, Li Zhong was still at the peak of the Sea Rebirth realm. Now, many of the inner sect disciples who were inferior to him had already advanced to the martial overlord realm. Many heads shook their heads. As long as one was smart, they wouldn't give up a better choice and choose a declining main peak. The Star Venerable looked at Qin Feng and said, Qin Feng, what do you think? According to the rules, Li Zhong chose you back then. You should be a true disciple. However, every true disciple in the sect has the freedom to choose. This isn't compulsory. Li Zhong raised his head and looked at Qin Feng. Qin Feng muttered. He wasn't a good person. If possible, he would naturally choose to hug a strong thigh. With so many powerful backers, it wasn't a wise choice to board a leaky ship. Qin Feng, you should choose Niu Jinfeng. This is what you owe senior brother Li Zhong. Just as Qin Feng made up his mind, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Hong Luan. A red-clothed woman walked in from outside the main hall. She was tall and slender, and wore a red corset dress that accentuated her perfect curves. She was absolutely beautiful. Hong Luan. One of the 3 true lords of Moon Reflection Peak, true Lord Hong Luan. She was also one of the best among the true disciples. When she saw Li Zhong kneeling on the ground, her beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of heartache. She quickly stepped forward to help Li Zhong up. Seeing this, the Star Venerable frowned. Luan, what are you doing? Perfected Lord Hong Luan raised her head and cupped her fists. Master is wise and observant. Master should understand Luan's thoughts. Li Zhong's heart has always been tied to Niu Jinfeng's inheritance, and he is unwilling to break through to the Nirvana realm. Luan has always seen this and was anxious in my heart. Now, however, there is an opportunity. Luan cannot sit idly by. Hong Luan? Li Zhong raised his head and glanced at the red-dressed young lady. Hong Luan held Li Zhong's hand and said, "Big brother Zhong, I understand your thoughts. This time, I'll surely fulfill your wish and eliminate the final obstacle for you, allowing you to put down your thoughts and break through to the rebirth realm." Both of them revealed their emotions. The head star venerable pulled a long face. He was extremely satisfied with true monarch Hong Luan's talent, cultivation, and temperament. However, her relationship with Li Zhong made him very depressed. The peak masters glanced at each other and secretly chuckled. True monarch Hong Luan was one of the 3 extreme monarchs of Moon Reflection Peak. The 3 extreme monarchs could be said to be the strongest under the 9 great true disciples. Especially true monarch Hong Luan, who was the youngest and had the most potential. Moreover, because true monarch Hong Luan was a female disciple among the many true disciples of the head star venerable, she was very important in his heart. Unfortunately, this proud daughter of heaven had taken a fancy to Niu Jinfeng's Li Zhong. Hong Luan turned around and stood up. Her beautiful eyes turned and an extremely fierce light descended onto Qin Feng. She took a few steps forward and stared intently at Qin Feng. "Qin Feng, I know you. A 15-year-old alchemist, a marquis genius in the All-Star Meet, and the Medicine King Hall's chief alchemist. However, do you know that if it wasn't for my senior brother Li Zhong, how could you have today?" As soon as these words were spoken, the head star venerable and the peak master's expressions changed as they glanced at each other. Qin Feng frowned. "Senior sister, please speak clearly." "Fine, take a look for yourself." Hong Luan's red lips curled into a trace of a sneer. Her palm moved and countless lights and shadows appeared. This was shockingly the scene of the Snow Region trial. Among them, Jemu Peak's people suspected that Qin Feng was a spy and wanted to capture Qin Feng. The scene of Li Zhong going forward to stop him appeared one after another. Qin Feng's expression changed slightly as he circulated the universe elephant technique. Obviously, these scenes weren't fake. Looking at the scene in the scene, Qin Feng's expression was silent. He indeed owed Li Zhong a huge favor. If it wasn't for Li Zhong, perhaps he wouldn't have had the chance to enter the All-Stars College and wouldn't have had the opportunity afterwards. Qin Feng was very clear about the plight of rogue cultivators. If it wasn't for the opportunity in Xingqian School, he would at most be at the meridian condensation stage. Seeing Qin Feng's hesitation, an elder at the side spoke up. "This is a small favor. Qin Feng, you don't have to take it to heart. What we seek is the Great Tao. The Great Tao is filled with thorns. For us old fellows to have our current cultivation, we have encountered countless life and death crises. These life and death crises don't necessarily depend on us old fellows every time. There are many people who have helped us, but we don't need to use our own futures to repay them. If you succeed in your cultivation in the future, at most, you can help Li Zhong." Another elder said. "Qin Feng, you have to consider carefully. The difference between the resources you can obtain after entering the Niu Jinfeng and the other peaks is too great. That's right, there are ways to repay a favor. Why must you gamble your own future?" Some elders tried to persuade him. Some elders cherished talents, while others didn't want the Niu Jinfeng to rise again because they had taken a lot of resources from the Niu Jinfeng. Almost everyone was looking at Qin Feng, waiting for Qin Feng's choice. "Okay, I'll enter the Niu Jinfeng." After thinking for a long time, Qin Feng still decided to enter the Niu Jinfeng. Qin Feng was a person with principles. The hatred of an arrow must be repaid 100 times. The kindness of a meal, he would also repay it 100 times. Moreover, when he was reborn, he had almost zero luck. That was when he was the weakest and most dangerous time. If Li Zhong hadn't withstood the pressure at that time, he might have been captured by the Xingqian School as a spy. At that time, he was at the 4th heavenly layer of the martial path, and he didn't have the ability to resist the pursuit of a Sea of Reincarnation realm expert. Qin Feng's choice caused everyone to be absent-minded. Qin Feng raised his head and looked at perfected monarch Hong Luan and Li Zhong. Revenge must be repaid. This is Qin Feng's principle. Since you helped me that day, I, Qin Feng, will enter the Niu Jinfeng today and inherit the Niu Jinfeng for 1,000 years. After that, the prosperity and decline of the Niu Jinfeng will have nothing to do with me. Qin Feng, are you really not going to reconsider? Do you know that in the Nirvana realm, if you don't have the help of the sect's main branch, your peers will quickly catch up to you? A first seat tried to persuade him. The most important thing in the Nirvana realm was accumulation. In the Nirvana realm, countless spiritual objects were needed to create a new world. Without the sect's resources, the speed of creation would be delayed by 10 times, or even dozens of times. The current Niu Jinfeng didn't have any resources. Chapter 634. In addition to repaying the debt of gratitude, the most important thing was that Niu Jinfeng possessed the rare 5 elements true inheritance of Xingqian school. The Greater Void 5 elements true thunder technique of annihilation. This true inheritance was a rare true inheritance of the 5 elements, thunder, destruction, and one Tao. However, almost all the elders and even the peak masters were surprised by Qin Feng's decision. He was obviously giving up on being a rich second generation and choosing to be a beggar second generation. Li Zhong looked at Qin Feng in surprise. There was a trace of unconcealable gratitude in his eyes. Perfected cultivator Hong Luan looked at Qin Feng with a much gentler expression. In her opinion, a true inheritance with a bright future joining Niu Jinfeng was indeed a waste. Dongfang Qinyun and Yi Ding looked at each other and sneered. Qin Feng's choice was the best. If he were to join one of the other 28 peaks, they would have a hard time dealing with him. Well, Qin Feng, you chose this path yourself. Don't regret it. The sect master and star venerable sighed. The peak masters shook their heads slightly. Joining Niu Jinfeng was a dead end. In such a competitive world, one step slower would lead to another step slower. It would not be long before Qin Feng disappeared from the crowd. I choose to join the ethereal sun peak. Xing Zhou was known as the King of Darkness. The dark yang rebirth technique of the ethereal sun peak was the most normal path for him. Then, I choose to join the tribulation fire peak. Wang Daoi took a fancy to the tribulation fire peak's true inheritance, the 9 transformation technique of the tribulation fire peak. The 9 transformations art of life and death was a true inheritance that contained the grand daos of wood, life and death, time, and many other daos. Wang Daoi believed that it would be inexplicably beneficial to the perfection of his reincarnation divine law. The peak masters of the ethereal sun peak and the tribulation fire peak laughed at Xing Zhou and Wang Daoi's choices. They immediately waved their hands and accepted the 2 of them. Xing Zhou was accepted as the 7th disciple of the ethereal sun peak master on the spot. Wang Daoi was given the title of Deputy Peak Master by the Tribulation Fire Peak Master. He was in the limelight. After the 9 people had made their choices, it was time for the most important conferment. Every true disciple did not just have an empty reputation, they also had real benefits. This was the original motivation for many inner sanctum disciples to obtain a name, even if it meant breaking their heads. The purple-robed successor disciple waved his hand, and a young girl in a green dress with bright eyes and white teeth walked out from the side with a jade plate. On top of the jade plate, 9 silver scrolls were emitting resplendent flowing silver light. Pan Wu, step forward and receive your order. Pan Wu's expression was solemn. Present, Pan Wu. The purple-robed successor took out a silver scroll and said, By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Origin Spirit General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 astral soldiers and star generals, guarding the origin spirit cave of 9 plates, stronghold on the 2 boundaries mountain battlefield. Pan Wu's expression changed as he stepped forward. Yes, sect master. Everyone's expression changed when they heard the imperial title. Among the Star Soldiers and Star Generals, among the Star Lord Temple's countless martial generals, they were ranked 6th. Star Soldier, Star General, Commander, Great Commander, Deputy General, Divine General, Main General, Marshal, Heavenly King, Star Lord. The higher the rank, the higher the rank. In Xingqian School, many martial experts might not even have the position of Deputy General. Especially those 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, they held great power. He retreated to the side, and there were already elders on the side carrying the General Seal, Commander's Seal, robe, jade belt, and crown. Wang Daoi, step forward and receive your order. Wang Daoi stepped forward. Present, Wang Daoi. The purple-robed successor disciple took out the second silver scroll and said clearly, "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of 9 Serenities General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the Falling Horse strongholds 9 Serenities cave on the 2 boundaries mountain battlefield." Wang Daoi took the silver scroll and cupped his hands. "Thank you, sect master." After bowing, he put the silver scroll into his sleeve and sat to the side. The purple-robed successor disciple nodded. "Where is Jian Zongyuan?" "Disciple is here." The white-clothed youth was like a peerless divine sword. "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Demon Slayer General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the 9 plates strongholds Demon Slayer Cave on the 2 boundaries mountain battlefield." "Thank you, sect master heads." The white-clothed youth smiled, took the scroll, and walked to the side. Not long after, there were elders on the side who brought the General Seal, Commander's Seal, and many other matching items. "Shinshio, receive your order." "Present, Shinshio." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Azura General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the Heavenly Fire strongholds Azura Cave on the 10 Directions mountain battlefield." "Qin Feng, step forward and receive your order." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Fu Bo General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the Peach Blossom strongholds Fu Bo Cave on the 10 Directions mountain battlefield." "Yi Ding, receive your order." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Yuan Gu General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the Copper Bell strongholds Yuan Gu Cave on the 10 Directions mountain battlefield." "Xingzhou, receive your order." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Taia General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the Green Crag strongholds Taia Cave on the 10 Directions mountain battlefield." "Dongfang Qinyan, receive your order." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Fenwei General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the northern spiritual battlefields Fenwei City in the Xiling Mountains." "Gongsun Hong, receive your order." "By the headmaster's decree, I hereby confer upon you the title of Tai Huang General, leading the position of Deputy General, controlling 3,000 Star Soldiers and Star Generals, guarding the northern spiritual battlefields Tai Huang City in the Xiling Mountains." After he finished speaking, the purple-robed successor disciple glanced at the 9 people. "Military affairs are urgent. Junior brothers, you all have important positions. Do not stay. You must arrive at the battlefield within 3 months. Strange, it's strange. What's wrong with this batch of successor disciples? Why are they all sent to the front line?" Yes, according to the original rules of the sect, successor disciples should be trained by the sect for a period of time, and then sent to various places to take up important positions and slowly take charge of the sect. Why are they so eager for instant success this time? It's too strange. What's going on? Yes, and the successor disciples in the past were only given the position of senior commander. This time, not only did they give the position of deputy general, but they also sent them to the battlefield in such a hurry. As soon as the decree was issued, many elders suddenly whispered and communicated with each other with their divine thoughts, full of all kinds of surprise. After the decree, the headmaster's star venerable and the 28 peak seats left together. There were only some elders left. After they went up to congratulate him and gained some familiarity, the group of elders left together. Wang Daoi, Shinsu, and the others came over and slightly greeted Qin Feng. After chatting for a while, the two of them hurriedly left. Junior Qin Feng. Li Zhong called out to Qin Feng. This young man, full of vicissitudes of life, looked a little ashamed. Qin Feng smiled and shook his head at Li Zhong. Senior brother, we're family. Let's go to Niu Jin Feng. I want to see what the real 28 peaks look like. Li Zhong was stunned. The next moment, he took a deep breath and nodded heavily. After bidding farewell to Supreme Hong Luan, the two of them turned into two streams of light and disappeared into the sky. Yi Ding walked out of the Dao-seeking hall and looked at the two people who had disappeared. He exchanged glances with each other, his eyes filled with coldness. Peach Blossom Village, General Fu Bo, Humph. Chapter 635. Qiankuan Sect, to Shita Peak's One Breath Hall. Wu Ji, my son, you died so tragically. My son, which bastard from Xingchen School, I, Hua Yuerong, will never let you go. In the hall, a beautiful woman cried as she knelt in front of Xian Zhiyang. Zhiyang, you must avenge my son. Not only must that bastard Qin Feng die, I want this Xingchen School to die with my son. Xian Zhiyang's expression was dark. Sitting down, the elders of Qiankuan sect looked gloomy. Not only did they not reap any benefits from the trip to see Spirit World, they even killed Xian Wuji's youngest son. How could they not be angry? Many elders were shocked. The beautiful woman's eyes swept across the elders. The elders' hearts skipped a beat. They took a deep breath and jumped out. Sect leader, it's time to take action against Xingchen School. That's right, sect leader. Xingchen School dared to kill our holy son. They are too much. We can't let this matter rest with the Star Sect. The elders were like firecrackers that were lit up. They were filled with righteous indignation. But there was not much hatred in their eyes. What a joke. Your son is dead and you want us to avenge you with our lives? Things are not that simple. Many of the elders did not mean what they said. Everyone, quiet down. The 8 elders sitting at the head of the table spoke. The elders quietened down. They were the 8 Baron elders who had the most power in Qiankuan sect other than the sect leader. The 8 Baron elders had a long history. Each of them was in charge of a region, and they were the true overlords of the sect. They were Qian, Kun, Zhen, Sun, Can, Li Zhen, and Diuai. The leader, Elder Qian, looked around and said, Everyone, please calm down. Xingchen School is our Qiankuan sect's mortal enemy. We have long decided to get rid of them, but Xingchen School and our Qiankuan sect are both part of the top 10 upper sect. Our strength is similar and we have been fighting for years. Our two sects have been fighting for thousands of years. We are like fire and water. If you live, I live. If I live, you live. He changed the topic and said, However, that's exactly the case. We understand them and they understand us. If we send out all our elites, I'm afraid both our sects will suffer great losses, and the other sects will benefit. Elder Li nodded. Indeed, our two sects are similar in strength, and our ranking is almost the same. Over the years, our Qiankuan sect has grown stronger, and so has the Xingchen School. The demon shrine and the great sunlight temple have also been forced to retreat, and the great sunlight temple was even destroyed in one fell swoop. How terrifying! Senior Brother Li's words make sense. Right now, what our Qiankuan sect needs the most is to accumulate our strength. Since the world is about to descend, we cannot waste our efforts for nothing. Otherwise, we might end up as the vanguard of the world. That's right, that's right. Accumulating strength, gathering geniuses, and suppressing the other sects in the Eastern Spirit region is what we should be doing. The elder's tepid words only angered the beautiful woman to the point that her face turned ashen. Hua Yuerong's face was filled with anger as she pointed at the elders. Good, good, good. A bunch of cowards. In the past, all of you were high and mighty, bossy, and arrogant. Now that you've heard of the Star Sect, you're making all sorts of excuses. What a bunch of useless people. Good, since you're not willing to do anything, then this madam will personally do it. Without your Qiankuan sect, my Divine Might sect can still kill that little bastard with our own hands. I'll avenge my son. She rushed out of one breath hall in a huff, as a fragrant wind blew past. Divine Might sect. The elders' faces changed slightly. Divine Might sect was one of the top 10 divine sects in the Linghai continent. It was ranked above the top 10 divine sects among the 72 sections. Each of the top 10 divine sects was a superforce. The power of the 10 great divine sects is definitely not something that ordinary sects can compare to. Once, the Hunyuan sect, one of the top 10 divine sects, had taken action. With the power of one sect, it had easily wiped out 3 first-rate sects that were not ranked low among the 72 sections. Hua Yuerong was indeed from one of the top 10 divine sects, the Divine Might sect. Suddenly, Xian Zhiyang opened his eyes and looked at the elders. My wife has lost her beloved son. I've misspoken. Please don't take it to heart. Elder Qian nodded and smiled. Sect leader, you're too polite. We all know how Madame Hua feels. But are we really going to tolerate Xingqian school? Not only have the Demon Shrine and Bailing sect agreed to form an alliance with us, even the Biyun sect in the southern spirit region has sent us news. Our Qiankuan sect can be said to have hundreds of people responding to our call. Now all we need is a call, and Xingqian school will be attacked from both sides. Elder Zhen said. Also, the 9 empires in the realm of stars have agreed. Once our Qiankuan sect and the rest work together, we'll destroy Xingqian school. The eyes of the elders were filled with a fiery passion. Xingqian school was located in the rich realm of stars. It had a long history and many spiritual mountains. It was said to be scattered all over the place. It was the top of the top 10 divine sects. If they could plunder Xingqian school, divide the benefits, and completely digest it, they might be able to become a divine sect. Xian Zhiyang said. Everyone, don't be anxious. We need the right time to attack the realm of stars. Xingqian school's realm of stars is at its peak. If we attack recklessly, although it's not difficult to destroy the realm of stars with the combined strength of a few sects, we'll have to pay a huge price. Moreover, a cornered dog will jump over a wall. Xingqian school has the realm of stars, which is a top grotto heaven. When the time comes, they'll go crazy and attack a sect with all their strength. At that time, I'm afraid that the strength of that sect will be greatly reduced. An elder said. Then when will the best time be? Xian Zhiyang smiled. According to my calculations, a rare void tide will appear in the void around the realm of stars 3 years later. The realm of stars will bear the brunt and be severely damaged. That will be the best time. Great void tide? Hearing this, all the elders sucked in a breath of cold air. The void tide was a catastrophe that would destroy all things in the chaos. In the void, any void world or void grotto heaven that encountered such a terrifying chaos tide would almost certainly die. Only a real kingdom could resist such a void disaster. Then, many experts became excited. 3 years good. As long as we have 3 years, we'll definitely destroy this 1,000-year-old enemy. This time, Xingqian School won't be able to escape this disaster. Destroy Xingqian School and end thousands of years of blood feud. Voices filled the Wenqi Hall, and murderous intents soared into the sky. Then, Sect Master, the revenge of the young Sect Master. One of the elders looked at Xian Zhuyang. The Wenqi Hall quieted down, and all the elders looked at Xian Zhuyang. A trace of crimson murderous intent flashed in Xian Zhuyang's eyes. The enmity of killing my son is absolutely irreconcilable. This seat will avenge him. However, the most important thing for us now is to gather our strength and not alert the enemy for the time being. As for this matter, let the people of the Divine Might sect do it. I believe that with my wife's influence in the Divine Might sect, killing Qin Feng will be a piece of cake. Xian Zhuyang suppressed the murderous intent in his eyes. He was an ambitious and ruthless person. Hearing this, the elders' eyes flickered and they nodded. Hua Yuerong's identity was not simple. She was the legitimate daughter of a grand elder of the Divine Might sect. Her identity had great influence in the Divine Might sect. With her ability, it was not difficult for her to summon some experts. Chapter 636. Half a month later, above Niu Jinfeng, a figure flew out and instantly passed through the clouds. He turned around and scanned the surroundings to determine the direction. An hour later, he appeared outside a huge door. His figure flashed and stopped outside the door. Outside the door, two black-clothed and white-clothed elders with staffs raised their heads and looked at the descending black-clothed youth. So it's the new Niu Jinfeng's true disciple. Are you going to All Stars College? Elder Bai Mei, Elder He Ju. Qin Feng's expression changed. He sensed an aura from these two elders that was not inferior to the Pill King Hall's Hall Master. Please pass. Elder Bai Mei glanced at Qin Feng and his eyes flashed. Half a month. In half a month, you have cultivated Niu Jinfeng's Greater Void 5 Elements True Thunder Art of Annihilation to the 5 Elements True Thunder Art. You are indeed talented. Hearing this, Elder He Ju's expression changed. Greater Void 5 Elements True Thunder Art of Annihilation. This true inheritance was a rare true inheritance of the 5 elements, lightning, destruction, and one. It was very famous in Xingqian School's peak. The Greater Void 5 Elements True Thunder Art of Annihilation was one of the strongest true inheritances in the sect. However, although this true inheritance was powerful, it was also very difficult to cultivate. Unless one was extremely talented and had outstanding perception, they would not be able to cultivate it. Qin Feng squinted his eyes and was secretly shocked. These two elders were really sharp. Go in. At this moment, Elder Bai Mei formed a seal with his hands. The door that was made of neither metal nor copper nor wood suddenly lit up inch by inch. Many lines lit up and a path to the heavens was formed inside the door. Qin Feng disappeared into the door like a shooting star. Countless rays of light bloomed. Qin Feng clearly felt countless void storms surging. He did not know how many voids he had crossed in an instant. Light appeared in his eyes and in the next moment, he appeared in a spacious hall. A group of white-robed disciples standing guard at the entrance were startled when they saw the black-robed young man flying out of the star field. Their expressions changed, and one of the disciples stepped forward. Senior Brother Qin Feng. It's you. Qin Feng's eyes swept over them, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. Then, an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. Zhu Jian. This was the outer court disciple, Zhu Jian, who was determined to make things difficult for Qin Feng when he chose the blessed land of Spirit Mountain for the first time in Spirit Mountain Palace. Seeing Qin Feng's expression, Zhu Jian's face turned red, and he felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. He had never expected to see Qin Feng here. In 1 year's time, things had changed. Now, Qin Feng was on a meteoric rise. From the Azure Dragon's first seat to an inner sect disciple, He advanced all the way to a true disciple. It was simply dazzling. And he was still an outer sect disciple. Back then, Zhu Jian was insufferably arrogant. Now, under Qin Feng's gaze, he was shivering like an ant in the cold winter. The many outer sect disciples stationed in the Star Extreme Palace and guarding the Star Extreme Palace's teleportation portal looked at Zhu Jian in astonishment. It seemed that this Zhu Jian had offended this new true disciple. For a moment, the gaze of many outer sect disciples changed. Zhu Jian's scalp was numb, and he cursed in his heart. There was also a kind of heart-wrenching jealousy. This Qin Feng was too lucky. Qin Feng glanced at Zhu Jian with a faint smile. The current Zhu Jian was not worth mentioning in Qin Feng's eyes. However, Qin Feng had always been vengeful. With a sweep of his gaze, Qin Feng quickly fell on the Star Extreme Palace's deacon in a silver robe among the crowd. "You're the deacon of the Star Extreme Palace." This was a middle-aged man with a white face and no beard. When he saw Qin Feng's gaze, he was overwhelmed with flattery. Deacons like them enjoyed the same treatment as inner sect disciples. But in reality, their future was already bleak. If they could curry favor with a true disciple, then they would have a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. This deacon was particularly attentive and hurried forward to pay his respects. Disciple Niu Ben greets the true disciple's senior brother. Qin Feng nodded. "I'll remember you." After saying that, his gaze fell on the pale-faced Zhu Jian. Niu Ben was stunned and then understood. Qin Feng patted the former's shoulder and stepped out of the Star Extreme Palace. The moment Qin Feng left, the gazes of the disciples in the Great Hall changed as they looked at Zhu Jian. There was a trace of pity in their eyes. After offending a true disciple, even if it was a new true disciple, the outcome could be imagined. The best outcome would be to be sent to a small city to guard. Otherwise, there was a high chance that he would be deployed to various major battlefields as cannon fodder due to the fear of the true disciple's prestige. Casually exploding the grudge of that day's plot, Qin Feng appeared in the contribution hall and exchanged the remaining 4th, 5th, and 6th levels of the Art of Chaos stars. Among them, the 4th level corresponded to the Nirvana realm of martial art. The 5th level corresponded to the Almighty realm. It included many secret methods to pass, avoid, and delay the 9 major heavenly tribulations. Only inner sect disciples could come into contact with these secret methods. As for the secret methods to avoid, delay, and pass through the 9 heavenly realms, only true disciples were qualified to come into contact with them. This was a benefit that belonged to true disciples. There was also the 6th level, which corresponded to the Supreme Realm. In addition, Qin Feng took the opportunity to exchange for another batch of jade spirit wine. He cleared out all that he had and exchanged it for various spiritual herb seeds and spiritual root. He was about to break through to the Nirvana realm and needed a large number of spiritual herbs. Qin Feng still attached great importance to this point. Qin Feng also felt that it was a pity. If he joined the other 28 peaks this time, there would be teachers to help him settle it. However, Niu Jinfeng was now poor and could not support his cultivation at all. Thinking about what he had seen and heard in Niu Jinfeng had nothing except for the abundant spiritual energy. He was really down and out. It was an exaggeration to say that he was a big cat or two. He recalled Li Zhong's words before he left. Junior brother Qin Feng, according to the sect's rules regarding the inheritance of the 28 peaks, if no one inherits the position of head in 300 years, the inheritance will be sealed. If no one inherits the position of head in 500 years, Xingchen School has the right to choose other elites to inherit the inheritance and rebuild this peak. Now that you have left for 500 years, there are less than 20 years left. Within 20 years, you must become the head. Otherwise, Niu Jinfeng's 10,000 years of inheritance will completely disappear. Becoming the head, how can it be so simple? The corner of Qin Feng's mouth twitched. According to the sect's rules, The lowest cultivation level for the head of the 28 peaks was the martial sage realm. Everyone knew that after reaching the peak of the nirvana realm, one would begin to pass the tribulation. Every time one passed a great tribulation, one would undergo a transformation. Only the peerless experts who had experienced 4 great tribulations were qualified to be called sages. Sages controlled the sage Tao law. He took a deep breath. After coming out of the contribution hall, Qin Feng headed straight for Scarlet Sky Peak. Now that he had become a true disciple, Scarlet Sky Peak had already become his training ground. However, there was still one last step for a 9th-grade spiritual mountain to become a training ground. Only by completing this last step and helping Scarlet Sky Peak break through the limit of a 9th-grade spiritual mountain would Scarlet Sky Peak be qualified to become a true training ground. Chapter 637. A Tao field was a spiritual mountain-blessed land that could explain the mysteries of the heavenly Tao. Only a spiritual mountain-blessed land that could nurture its own Tao within the meridians was qualified to be called a Tao field. Originally, according to the rules of the heavens and earth, after a long period of nurturing, the Tao aura would naturally gather in the depths of a 9th-grade spiritual mountain and give birth to a special heavenly Tao. However, this period of time was too long. Therefore, some martial arts experts thought of other methods to use the power of martial arts to artificially create Tao aura. In the Xingqian school, there was an extremely precious Tao talisman. This Tao talisman was a secret technique that was lost in the later generations. Qin Feng had heard of it before, but it was his first time seeing this Tao talisman. In the belly of the Scarlet Sky Peak, there were numerous dragon-like earth veins that were filled with spirit qi. They were constantly absorbing spirit qi from the surroundings to refine the Scarlet Sky Peak. Here, there were countless earth-yellow earth veins of various sizes. The turbid qi of the earth was circulating within the earth veins. Any earth vein that accumulated would give birth to yin qi, evil qi, poison qi, and other evil qi. A few earth veins were filled with extremely pure and vigorous emerald spirit qi. These few meridians were constantly absorbing all kinds of spirit qi from the depths of the endless void. They were pure and transformed into the purest spirit qi. These were spirit veins. Spirit veins were different from ordinary earth veins. A faint light appeared. Qin Feng opened one of his hands and a seed-sized object appeared. It was emitting a gentle and mysterious spirit qi. When it appeared, it was like a miniature world that was evolving the mysteries of the heavenly Tao. This was a Tao talisman. Plant the Tao talisman, nurture the Tao seed, and turn it into a Tao field. This was 3-step. However, there were differences between Tao fields. For example, a fire-type Tao field would be filled with rich mysteries of the fire type. If a fire-type cultivator cultivated in a fire-type Tao field, their cultivation speed would be several times faster. In a fire-type Tao field, planting fire-type spiritual items would undoubtedly be twice the result with half the effort. There were also water-type Tao fields, metal-type Tao fields, lightning-type Tao fields, ice-type Tao fields, wind-type Tao fields, and so on. There were many types. Every Tao field had no elemental attributes at the beginning. It required a powerful expert to infuse it with profound knowledge before it could take root and develop many incredible abilities. Qin Feng's original ideal Tao venue was a void Tao venue. However, this void-type Tao venue only had a 1 in 10,000 chance of appearing. Even Xingqian school had no way to create a void dojo. Qin Feng could only take a step back and choose the 5 elements Bodhidharma. The 5-colored light flew out from the talisman, and in the next moment, it fell into the center of the mountain where the meridians intertwined. As soon as it landed, the talisman immediately took root and sprouted, absorbing the qi of the earth. The qi of the earth turned into a talisman cocoon that emitted a 5-colored light. Buzz. An invisible wave flowed along the earth veins. A unique Tao rhyme was slowly changing the surrounding earth veins and even the spirit veins. done! Qin Feng could feel it. Along with the appearance of this fluctuation, strands of rich five elements true meaning flowed out along the earth veins. If an ordinary disciple was able to capture this true meaning, it would have a special effect in comprehending the five elements' true meaning. This was just the beginning. As the talisman was completely condensed, the spirit veins under the Tao venue would all transform into Tao veins. This newly formed Tao venue would completely take shape and become a pure land. As the Tao venue took shape, on the Scarlet Sky Peak, there were a few medicine apprentices who were born with extremely strong soul force. Their expressions changed, and in the next moment, a mysterious aura was produced from their bodies. They had entered a state of enlightenment. In just a moment, a unique and mysterious fluctuation was produced from their bodies. 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. This is. The 6 strongest outer disciples on the Scarlet Sky Peak were the first to discover this mysterious change. Luan Xiaochuan, Su Jie, Zhao Yuan, Lu Xiu, Yu Yao, and Chen Guang put down what they were doing and carefully comprehended this fluctuation. Among them, Lu Xiu and Yu Yao, who had the most outstanding aptitude, almost instantly sank into the extremely mysterious fluctuation and comprehended the formless changes. Countless dazzling golden stars suddenly appeared on Yu Yao's body. Specks of light wrapped around her like a golden tornado. On the other hand, a radiant energy was produced from Lu Xiu's body, illuminating her body with boundless brilliance. Gold-shattering force, glorious sun force. Qin Feng's figure silently appeared in the sky above the Scarlet Sky Peak. Countless scenes of the Scarlet Sky Peak appeared in his mind. A trace of a sigh flashed across his eyes. Gold-shattering, dawn light, glorious sun, jade crystal, rosy cloud, collapsing snow, and primal chaos. These were the 7 most peculiar attributes, and they were extremely rare. Furthermore, they were the pinnacle of each attribute. For example, the gold-shattering force was the pinnacle of gold. With the gold-shattering force, this god's true power was extremely pure. Once it was successful, it could easily reach the peak of True Dragon Stage 9. If there was an opportunity, it would be possible to reach the Heavenly Tao stage in a single step. Although their cultivation speed might not be as fast as the various divine bodies, this characteristic was enough to make one go crazy. Pinnacle of gold, pinnacle of light. I've already seen Yu Yao's gold-shattering force, but I never expected Lu Xiu to possess the glorious sun force. After muttering to himself for a while, 2 high-grade true martial realm martial skills suddenly appeared in Qin Feng's mind. One was of the gold attribute and the other was of the light attribute. 2 streaks of light entered the bodies of the 2. In a flash, Qin Feng appeared outside the primeval hall. Peak Master! Outside the hall, Luan Xiaochuan, Su Jie, and Zhao Yuan were shocked and quickly lowered their head. Is Red Lotus here? Reporting to Peak Master, Madam Red Lotus came back half a month ago and entered the 9 Great All-Stars College's 9 Great Temples to cultivate. The All-Stars College's 9 Great Temples were gold, wood, wind, fire, earth, ice, lightning, light, and darkness. The 9 Great Temples were branded with traces of the Tao left behind by martial experts, and the spirit chi here was much more abundant than some spirit mountains. This was a rare cultivation paradise for the new students of All Stars College. However, Qin Feng had never entered it even once. Qin Feng did not expect that he would pass by Red Lotus. Forget it, I'd better go to the savage battlefield and take over the Peach Blossom Stronghold. I'm currently under orders to guard the Peach Blossom Stronghold's hidden wave cave. I don't want to mess things up on my first mission. Right at this moment, Yu Yao's aura fluctuated, and countless rays of golden light shone brightly. She suddenly opened her eyes, and a trace of extremely sharp aura was faintly discernible between her brows. Peak Master? She opened her eyes and instantly saw the black-clothed youth in front of her. Qin Feng's eyes flickered as he sized up Yu Yao. Yu Yao was a clever girl and she was good with money. She was born to be an expert at stirring up clouds and making waves. It was a pity to leave her in a place like the Scarlet Sky Peak. Yu Yao, if I hand over a city to you to manage, do you have the confidence to manage it well? Yu Yao's expression changed, and a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. Following that, a trace of confidence flashed across her eyes. Peak Master, it's not that I, Yu Yao, want to boast. Although I, Yu Yao, don't have a high talent in cultivation, I have a natural talent in managing mundane affairs. Speaking of cultivation, Yu Yao pursed her red lips. She was also a genius in Mountain River City, and she was a hero of her generation. However, when she arrived at All Stars College, she realized that she was in the bottom group. Among the geniuses who entered All Stars College in the same batch, most of them had already advanced to the third and fourth secret realms of the meridian condensation stage. The outstanding ones, like Qin Feng, were even monstrous enough to become a true disciple. At the very least, they had all become outer and inner disciples. And now, she was just looking at how to break through the first secret realm of the meridian condensation stage. How could she not be disappointed? Is your cultivation speed slow? That's not a problem. I have a cultivation technique that's naturally suitable for someone with a nimble mind like you to cultivate. I'll teach you the first 4 layers. If you can help me manage Cloud Lake City, I can teach you the next few layers as well. Qin Feng's eyes flickered, and a cultivation technique appeared in his mind. He pointed out with his finger, and a stream of light suddenly flew into Yu Yao's mind. This is? Yu Yao's delicate body trembled. A trace of unconcealable shock appeared in her eyes, and her red lips trembled. The legendary cultivation technique, Cosmos' Heavenly Elephant Art. Chapter 638. Qin Feng's eyes flickered and a cultivation technique appeared in his mind. With a tap of his finger, a streak of light flew into Yu Yao's mind. This is? Yu Yao's body trembled, and an unconcealable shock appeared in her eyes. Her red lips quivered. The legendary cultivation technique, Cosmos' Heavenly Elephant Art? Yu Yao found it hard to believe. Qin Feng actually passed such a precious cultivation technique to her so easily. Yu Yao pursed her red lips and a trace of redness flickered in her eyes. A true inheritance. With this true inheritance, advancing to the Overlord realm or even the Almighty realm would no longer be a dream. Taking in Yu Yao's expression, Qin Feng said, "It's just a true inheritance, there's no need to be so excited. As long as you work for me wholeheartedly, there will be no lack of treasures like this in the future." Finishing his words, Qin Feng said a few words to Luan Xiaochuan, Su Jie, Zhao Yuan, Chen Guang, and the rest who were rushing over. Then, he grabbed Yu Yao and flew out of the Scarlet Sky Peak in a streak of light, rushing towards the Cloud Lake City. 3 days later, Qin Feng appeared in the sky above Cloud Lake City at lightning speed. This is Cloud Lake City? Under the sea of clouds, Yu Yao looked at the houses that stretched for hundreds of miles, and a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. Without a doubt, this was a huge city. In front of this huge city, Mountain River City was like a baby that had just learned how to walk. She was about to become the actual ruler of this huge city, and this made the desire for power in her blood boil. Her body couldn't help but soften. Yu Yao narrowed her eyes. Looking at this woman who was excited to the extreme, Qin Feng's eyes flickered. This woman was born for power. In a flicker, Qin Feng appeared in the Castellan Manor with Yu Yao in his arms. Inside the Castellan Manor, a devilish-looking young man in a black robe was sitting with his eyes closed. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. "Ancestor!" Moe quickly stood up. Yu Yao's beautiful eyes looked at the young man who looked exactly like Qin Feng. "He's my clone," Yu Yao said softly. With a wave of his sleeve, Moe turned into a streak of light and merged into Qin Feng's body. At this moment, sensing the clear void fluctuations of the city lord's mansion, 4 streams of light rushed in like shooting stars. Bao Wen, Cui Haiming, Cui Wenxiang, and Zhong Wanwu appeared one after another. 4 C reincarnation realm experts? Yu Yao's expression changed, but she regained her composure in the next moment. Seeing the young man in the hall, the 4 of them heaved a sigh of relief. City Lord! Get up, there's no need for formalities. Qin Feng waved his hand. City Lord, who is this lady? The 4 of them guessed that Yu Yao might be the City Lord's beloved concubine. Qin Feng said. She's the future housekeeper of the Qin family. If you run into any trouble in the future, you can ask her first. Head housekeeper. The 4 of them immediately understood. This was undoubtedly one of the future madams of the family head. Yu Yao was a little shy. She was a clever girl. How could she not know the expressions of Bao Wen, Cui Haiming, Cui Wenxiang, and Zhong Wanwu? However, if she could become the madam of the Qin family, she wouldn't reject it. With Qin Feng's current status, he was definitely worthy of her. Qin Feng didn't explain and waved his hand. In his mind, bits and pieces of information were sent over by MOE. He was trying to understand what had happened while he was gone. Cloud Lake City wasn't that big of a deal. 4 of the 5 major clans had fallen. The remaining Li family was also standing aloof from worldly affairs, acting as if everything was led by the Qin family. The 12 major clans and various factions were also behaving themselves. The Qin family was flourishing. But soon after, one of the pieces of information attracted Qin Feng's attention. Chaohai City had a series of cases of young girls going missing. The missing girls were either Xian Yin girls, who were born in the Yin time of the Yin year or the Yang time of the Yang year. This piece of information reminded Qin Feng of the Huan sect's perverted thief who ambushed the Jin family. Qin Feng was well versed in both the past and present. He knew many secrets. Some ancient existences needed special rituals to awaken because they had been asleep for too long. For example, some experts who cultivated the laws of Yin and Yang needed a blood sacrifice of young boys and girls with pure Yin and Yang energy to awaken. Russell. At this moment, a series of hurried footsteps could be heard. Outside the main hall, Qin Qinyun, Qin Qinhong, Qin Qinyue, Qin Yueme, and the others arrived. The 3 elders were proud of their success and seemed to be growing with each passing day. When they saw Qin Feng, especially when they saw the black star god robe on Qin Feng, they were shocked and overjoyed. Patriarch, you completed the successor ceremony and became a successor disciple? Qin Feng nodded. That's right, I have become a successor disciple. I have returned to Cloud Lake City and will head to the savage battlefield in 2 months. Congratulations, Patriarch, congratulations, Patriarch. The 3 elders were overjoyed. It was as if their own family had become a successor disciple. Since Qin Feng had become a successor disciple, the Qin family's status would naturally rise as well. If this matter were to spread back to Mountain River City, the 3 elders' statuses would rise by another level. Even the Qin family's old ancestor would have to give them some face. Qin Qinyun suddenly said, Patriarch, your advancement to a successor disciple is the #1 joyous event in Cloud Lake City. We should hold a grand banquet to celebrate. This is a good opportunity to let the surrounding forces see the power of our Cloud Lake City. Qin Feng said. I will leave this matter to you. I won't be staying in Cloud Lake City for too long. To Qin Feng, the most important thing now was to adjust his condition and break through to the Nirvana realm. Everything else was trivial. Yu Yao, from now on, you will enter the City Lord Manor to handle administrative matters. Elders, from today onwards, Yu Yao will be the City Lord Manor's administrative officer. Leave all the ordinary matters to Yu Yao. If there is anything that can't be done, report to me. Yu Yao. The expressions of the Qin family members changed. Naturally, they had heard of Yu Yao's name before. Looking at the current situation, It seemed like this proud daughter of the Yu family had been taken in by their patriarch. Qin Yueme sized Yu Yao up from head to toe. Yu Yao could clearly feel that this daughter of the Qin family seemed to have a natural hostility towards her. This hostility came from Qin Feng, who was beside her. Crush? Yu Yao's red lips revealed a seductive smile. Seems like this is the first trouble I will face in Cloud Lake City. Qin Feng turned and entered the secret chamber of the City Lord Manor, releasing Moe once again. In the secret chamber, Qin Feng sat cross-legged. Now that he had comprehended all 18 types of void mystic mysteries, condensing the void source, fusing the Tao, merging the Tao, and even proving the Tao wasn't difficult for him. Perhaps the only trouble was opening up his inner world. Backlash of heaven and earth. When ordinary sea reincarnation realm experts tried to open up their inner world, they would have a slim chance of surviving because of the backlash of heaven and earth. However, Qin Feng had quite a bit of confidence. With his current strength, ordinary sea reincarnation realm experts couldn't be compared to him. What Qin Feng was worried about was that after he broke through to the Nirvana realm, due to his strong foundation, he might become a martial Tao expert and trigger a calamity of heaven and earth. Chapter 639. Just as Qin Feng began his seclusion, 3 figures quietly appeared on a small hill 100 miles away from Cloud Lake City. They retracted their auras, but there was a lightning-like luster brewing in their eyes. Thought lightning. The 3 of them were martial artists who were at least at the martial Tao level. Is this the place? One of them looked in the direction of Cloud Lake City. This is the place. According to Master Yi's prediction, that person will most likely return to Cloud Lake City to break through to the Nirvana realm. There is a level 7 Grandmaster array here. Ordinary people can't get close to where he is in seclusion. Can he control a level 7 array formation? Another person gasped in shock. The first person to speak had a solemn expression. According to our intelligence, he can indeed control this level 7 array. He even used this array to repel the attacks of 2 sea race experts. He is so terrifying. No wonder that person can't tolerate him. The sacred temple can't tolerate him. The heaven and earth sect also wants him dead. The 3 of them looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. Once such a genius matured, he would become the foundation of Xingqian school. Kill. He must be killed, the last person said. That's why that person came all the way here to ask us to help. However, we have to be careful. This person is a true disciple of Xingqian school. Every true disciple of Xingqian school is a person with great luck. They are not easy to kill. We have to kill him in one strike. We have to kill him before he can react. The killing intent in the eyes of the previous 2 experts was as sharp as knives. Breaking through to the Nirvana realm and creating a new world was something that many martial artists could do. The biggest obstacle was the backlash from the void. At that time, the person who created the new world would lose a lot of his vitality. It was the most vulnerable and dangerous time. That was not all. Creating a new world in the endless void was extremely easy to attract the attacks of the void beasts that roamed the void. Those void beasts had always treated the newly created grotto heavens as delicacies. They would act upon hearing the news. The scariest thing was that creating a new world would cause too much of a commotion. It might even attract external enemies. If the enemy took advantage of that opportunity to launch a sneak attack, the consequences would be unimaginable. Qin Feng's choice of Cloud Lake City as the place for his breakthrough was not without this consideration. After calming himself down, Qin Feng began to adjust his cultivation. During this period of adjustment, some of his hidden injuries and flaws were slowly repaired. His essence, energy, and spirit gradually rose to the peak. 3 days later, amidst the confusion, Qin Feng's figure was enveloped within a ball of resplendent silvery light, resembling a star. Pucci. He stretched out a hand and tore through the void like a sharp blade. His figure flashed and disappeared into the void. Hundreds of miles away, one of the three martial arts experts opened his eyes. It's starting! Sure enough, as expected, he entered the endless void. Fortunately, that existence borrowed the void glimpse stage treasure mirror this time. With this primordial treasure, no matter where you hide, you won't be able to escape from our eyes. A bronze mirror that was emitting a misty cyan light appeared in his palm. The surface of the mirror rippled, and the void within thousands of miles was revealed on its surface. It seems like someone is spying on me? In the eternal darkness of the void, Qin Feng's expression changed slightly, but he did not make a sound. His extremely powerful spiritual sense could vaguely sense that there was a pair of eyes spying on his every move. His spirit sense spread out in all directions, but he could not find any trace. It seems like someone has predicted that I am about to break through to the Nirvana realm and is preparing to launch a sneak attack on me. Qin Feng thought inwardly, but he did not find it strange. He had reached the peak of the Sea of Reincarnation realm and was about to break through to the Nirvana realm. This was not a secret. As long as one knew some divination, they could easily calculate it. Trying to sneak attack me? Sneering in his heart, Qin Feng glanced at his surroundings. His gaze fell on the depths of the ancient darkness of the void. Boundless void Yuan Qi formed a void storm around him. There were many ways to create a new world. Every sect had their own secret technique. The Art of Chaos Star also recorded a few common secret techniques of creating a new world. However, there were generally two main types of secret techniques. The first type was to use absolute strength to split open the void, forming treasures such as the heaven-splitting divine axe, heaven-splitting divine sword, heaven-splitting divine lightning, heaven-splitting divine saber, heaven-splitting divine mirror, and so on. The second type was like the world tree, using one's own comprehension of the origin to form a world seed. Like a ripe melon, it would take root and sprout in the void, naturally giving birth to a new world. Both types had their pros and cons. The first type took the shortest time, but it was easy to exhaust Yuan Qi and cause accident. Many martial Dao experts at the peak of the Sea of Reincarnation realm could not withstand the backlash of the void due to the exhaustion of their Yuan Qi after creating a new world. Their body would merge with the void and disappear forever. The second type did not exhaust Yuan Qi, but it took a long time. If a void beast or an external enemy came during this time, it was very likely to be interrupted and lose the chance to break through. Qin Feng chose the first type. This required absolute strength to create a new world. He took a deep breath, and his eyes flashed with lightning. He rubbed his hands together, and 5-colored lightning appeared on his palms. Open! A 5-colored thunder rumbled in the void, and with a dull sound, the central void shattered inch by inch, turning into a small scene of the beginning of the world. Greater Void 5 Elements True Thunder Art of Annihilation. This contained the secret of using divine lightning to split open the heavens. Qin Feng had used the lightning art to split open the heavens in his previous life. He was very familiar with this. With a wave of his sleeves, thousands of 5-colored lightning exploded in the void, shattering a large area of the void. Rumble! In the eternal darkness, countless lightning flashed. Wind, water, earth, and fire wreaked havoc. Standing in the midst of the earth, water, wind, and fire, Qin Feng's body endured the baptism of the chaotic Yuan Qi. Everywhere he went, a large area of lightning exploded. This brat is so perverted. Gulp. Seeing this scene, the 3 martial Dao experts on the small hill secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This large area of 5 elements divine lightning. Any one of them could kill a martial Dao overlord. To be able to release such a large area of 5 elements divine lightning in one go, it was simply terrifying. At this moment, one of the experts exclaimed in shock. "Did you guys see that? His body is shockingly strong. That chaotic power of earth, water, wind, and fire can easily kill a martial overlord. Even if we, the martial overlords, were to enter, it would be very troublesome. But he is actually using his body to resist it. Moreover, he is constantly devouring the violent Yuan Qi. His body is even stronger than those martial overlords who have taken the alternative path. Another great being muttered softly, "Damn, he is so perverted. It seems like the three of us might not be able to defeat him. Fortunately, we are just the vanguard. There are still 2 more supreme experts on the way." Rumble. Countless divine thunderbolts exploded, and the embryonic form of a small heaven and earth that was hundreds of miles in size had already appeared. However, in the miniature heaven and earth, water, wind, and fire were mixed together, and countless lightning flashes intertwined. It was blurry and indistinct. Qin Feng glanced at it, and suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat out 1,000 feet long stream of innate yin-yang qi. The 2 streams of innate yin-yang qi intertwined, and with a roar, they turned into 2 Jiao dragons that rushed out. In just a breath, the Jiao dragons devoured the earth, water, wind, and fire yuan qi in the miniature heaven and earth. In the next moment, they turned into pure, gentle, and turbid qi. The azure heaven yuan qi floated up, and the turbid earth yuan qi sank down. The miniature heaven and earth seemed to be reflected in the water, but it was empty. The ground was filled with yellow sand like a dry desert. Qin Feng was quite satisfied. Rumble. At this moment, the void trembled violently, and a hole appeared in the void. Boundless void yuan qi turned into seawater and pressed down heavily. Creak, creak. The entire miniature heaven and earth shook, and it seemed like it would collapse at any moment. The void's backlash was here. Chapter 640. Has it begun? 2 blurry figures appeared in the depths of the void without a sound. Their bodies emitted a faint divine radiance, and wherever they passed, the void froze. Even time and space seemed to have stopped. They looked at the void essence qi that was being drawn in like tides. "Shall we do it now?" asked one of the supreme beings. "It's not the time yet. Look at how energetic he is. Even if we severely injure him now, he might escape in the future and leave behind a disaster. Let's cast a spell to attract some void beasts to exhaust some of his energy." The other supreme being seemed to be a woman, and her eyes were gentle. She did not seem to do anything, but her hands formed a seal, and a strange incense appeared. It's a pity that this dragon-luring incense is too difficult to make. We've only made 2 in 100 years. This dragon-luring incense was made from the origin of the Grotto Heaven secret realm after it had undergone nirvana. It was extremely precious, and normal people would not use it easily. It's okay, Senior Lingru. As long as we can kill Qin Feng, we will have done a great service. When the time comes, we can ask Yu Huatian for some good stuff. I'm sure he will give it to us. Without a sound, the 2 of them disappeared into the depths of the void, waiting for the right time. This level of backlash. Qin Feng glanced at the void and smiled. His eyes flickered, and the connate yin and yang qi turned into a divine diagram. It was like a whirlpool that swallowed the void essence qi that was being poured in. Boom! As the void essence qi surged in, the small world that was being created expanded like a balloon. The newly formed crystal wall swallowed the void essence qi and emitted a dazzling light. 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, 360 miles. Seeing that the small world was still expanding, Qin Feng suppressed it with his thoughts. The expansion of the small world was not powerful, but sturdy. Boundless void essence qi was poured into the crystal wall, and it became thicker layer by layer. Qin Feng opened his mouth and spat out the divine fire of heaven and earth to refine it. He did not stop there. He turned into the black water mystical snake again and activated the Xianming primordial water to refine it. The layers of the crystal wall gradually gained a kind of elasticity, becoming thicker and thicker under the fire and water. In the distance, it emitted layers of void colors and blended into the void. This was a protective color that allowed the entire world to be more hidden, preventing some terrifying existences in the void from easily detecting it. Even so, Qin Feng did not stop there. He channeled the galaxy true power in his body into void true power and infused it into the crystal wall system, making it even sturdier. The gray space was extremely long, and even Qin Feng couldn't help but feel exhausted. It was almost as if he had returned to his mother's womb and needed a good night's sleep. At the same time, a gush of warm primordial qi surged into his body, amplifying this feeling by 100-fold. Even his true soul felt drowsy. He wanted to completely integrate into this newly born world. It's the Tao of the void. Qin Feng was startled awake. The endless void had a strange property that could assimilate martial arts experts without them noticing. Especially when a martial arts expert was weak, they would unknowingly be bewitched. Once they fell into a deep sleep, they would disappear forever. As he extracted the billowing yuan qi from the chaos heaven's mystic realm, Qin Feng recovered in a few seconds. Boom! Infinite silver light blasted out from his skin, dispelling his sleepiness. The Khanate divine chart suppressed the void's backlash as Qin Feng began tempering the world. To fully control the grotto heaven, he naturally had to use his true power to cleanse it inch by inch. It was a huge undertaking. Qin Feng transformed into a silver beam of light as the galaxy true power in his body penetrated the land inch by inch, slowly refining everything. 365 kilometers was in line with the number of heavenly cycles, but it was troublesome to refine. Boom! Roar! There was an excited roar from afar as Qin Feng's expression changed. He saw a gray ancient beast that was 30 to 40 feet tall appear out of the void. The heavy breathing sounded like a drum in Qin Feng's ears despite being thousands of feet away. Its pale gray eyes stared intently at the inner world. Qin Feng had opened up like a shark that smelled blood. Void-devouring beast. This was a void beast, and its strength was roughly equivalent to that of a martial overlord. Such void-devouring beasts loved to devour the world and were the nemesis of grotto heavens. A gray beam streaked across. Gotcha! As Qin Feng's expression changed, an ancient beast appeared on the grotto heaven's grotto heaven. It looked like a mouse with spikes on its back as it gnawed on the grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven. The seemingly indestructible grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven was like a door under its sharp teeth. In the blink of an eye, the grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven was filled with chaos. Qin Feng's eyes sharpened and in the next moment, his expression changed. Roar! 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 Dozens of hoarse roars came from the void as dozens of void-devouring beasts appeared one after another. When these void-devouring beasts saw Qin Feng's grotto heaven, they roared crazily and landed on the grotto heaven's grotto heaven. They also started gnawing on the grotto heaven's grotto heaven. Beast, how dare you! Qin Feng's silver eyes were gloomy as the big-sleeved Doloa struck the grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven's grotto heaven. Roar! Cries of agony could be heard as the void-swallowing beasts fell from the void like dumplings. Qin Feng snorted coldly. He cast the innate yin-yang divine art and twisted it in the void. Crackle! With a series of popping noises, the dozens of void-swallowing beasts were instantly turned into clouds of blood mist. After devouring the blood mist, the innate divine map's power skyrocketed. In just a split second, the innate divine map grew from 100 feet to an 810 feet long divine map. At the same time, Qin Feng felt an extremely pure and surging energy coming back from the innate divine diagram. This was the essence of a dozen void-swallowing beasts. Qin Feng laughed out loud, then transformed this power into life essence and sent it into his mind. Rumble! The ninth Shen Tsangzhen acupoint lit up with a loud bang under the irrigation of this majestic and surging life essence. An extremely bright light burst out, and 9 huge halos appeared behind Qin Feng's head one after another. The fourth level of the imperishable body seemed to have been reborn under the light of the halo. It gave off a brilliant divine light of life. Humph! In the void, the 2 unparalleled existences' faces turned extremely gloomy upon seeing this. Not only did the void-swallowing beasts not destroy the secular world, but they were also turned into nourishment for the secular world. Brat, I'll let you be proud for a while, you'll be crying later. The female unparalleled existence's lips curled into a cold sneer, her hand seals changed, and not far away, a divine incense burned even more fiercely. The invisible fragrance flowed along with the void storm and blew in all directions. Roar, 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 roar. 10,000 miles away, 100 feet long, a terrifying beast that looked like a demonic dragon was snoring loudly. As it breathed in and out, a small wave of void tide was formed, and there were even faint rumbles of thunder in the void. This was a void elemental overlord, the void annihilation dragon. Suddenly, its nose twitched and its eyes opened. A sliver of chaotic ferocity shot out, shattering the void. In the next moment, it swung its tail and sliced through the void like a dragon. Chapter 641. Roar! With an extremely ferocious roar, Qin Feng saw an evil dragon nearly 1,000 feet long shaking its head in the void. With a crunch, it opened its mouth. Qin Feng felt a sharp pain on his body as a huge hole was bitten in the crystal wall. Void Annihilation Dragon! Qin Feng roared. This dragon was a void elemental king-level existence. Its strength was comparable to that of a powerful cultivator. The Void Annihilation Dragon tasted the sweetness, and it couldn't help but let out an excited roar. It opened its mouth and bit down on the secular world again. Qin Feng's secular world was just born and it couldn't withstand the Void Annihilation Dragon's bite. Void Annihilation Dragon! Qin Feng roared. This Void Annihilation Dragon was a Void Elemental King-level existence. Its strength was comparable to that of a powerful cultivator. You're courting death. Krong! Qin Feng unleashed hundreds of bolts of 5 elements divine thunder and landed on the body of the Void Annihilation Dragon. The Void Annihilation Dragon shook its head and waved its tail, but it did not feel any pain at all. This secular world was created by Qin Feng and it was connected to the Void Annihilation Dragon's soul. Just the Void Annihilation Dragon's crystal wall already had a huge hole in it. You bastard, do you really think I can't do anything to you? Qin Feng roared. His hair fluttered in the wind and an endless amount of silver light burst out from his body. Mountain Embracing Seal. He formed a seal with one hand and a divine mountain appeared. Qin Feng hugged the divine mountain and rushed forward, knocking the Void Annihilation Dragon to the ground. He formed another seal with both hands and the gold, fire, water, and wood elemental divine mountains smashed onto the Void Annihilation Dragon's body one after another. Roar! Roar! The Void Annihilation Dragon roared, but it was all in vain, as it could only vent its anger after a few breaths. With one hand, Zhongyu grabbed onto the Void Annihilation Dragon's tail and tossed it into the newborn secular world. The innate divine diagram spun and shattered the Void Annihilation Dragon into pieces. Its blood essence was refined by the innate yin and yang qi and infused into the crystal wall. Visible to the naked eye, the shattered crystal wall was restored once again. Furthermore, it looked even more resilient than before, emanating a tremendous pressure. How terrifying! The King-tier Void Annihilation Dragon was smashed to death, just like that. The 3 sovereigns of Mount Mang secretly clicked their tongues at the strength of a Void Glimpse stage martial artist. The 3 of them were famous rogue cultivators in the 10 Directions spirit domain. The three sovereigns of Mount Mang controlled the entire northern Mang Mountain and had a large foundation. This time, when he received the news from Yu Huatian, he hurried over to help Yu Huatian set up a trap to kill the other true disciple, Qin Feng. Originally, they thought that killing a Sea of Reincarnation realm expert would trigger 3 supreme experts and 2 supreme experts. But now, the 3 of them felt incomparably fortunate. But Big Brother, what are those 5 divine mountains of his? How can they be summoned out of thin air? Furthermore, they seem to contain the terrifying power of the 5 elements. I feel that even if our paradise were to encounter those 5 divine mountains, we would still be doomed. The third brother, Lao Xuelin, stared at the 5 divine mountains without blinking. At the same time, there was an unconcealable fiery greed in his eyes. It should be a semi-divine ability or a semi-divine weapon. This kind of divine ability is exceptionally rare, as expected of a disciple of a large sect. The second brother, Lao Xuelin, also coveted this kind of divine ability. The blood hair of the eldest brother, Lao Xuelin, danced in the wind. His eyes were ferocious as he stared at Qin Feng's figure. Viciousness, cunning, and savagery flickered in his eyes. I must find an opportunity to devour this guy. This person's vitality is unbelievably vigorous. If I devour this person, my blood-soul condensation art might be able to break through in one go and condense the extreme Yin blood-soul to become a supreme expert. Big Brother, should we make a move? The void beasts that he attracted didn't seem to be able to do anything to him. Moreover, his grotto heaven is about to take shape. If we don't make a move now, when he forms his grotto heaven and possesses the power of the grotto heaven, it will be difficult to deal with him. The third brother, Lao Xuelin, could not help but say, "Third brother, don't be anxious. This void annihilation dragon is just a vanguard. There are more powerful ones behind it. Moreover, even if he forms his grotto heaven, it doesn't matter. As everyone knows, a newly formed grotto heaven is extremely weak. It's like a baby that hasn't been weaned off milk. It needs to be fed at all times." Lao Xuelin, on the other hand, looked like a big monkey. His blood-red hair draped over his shoulders, and his arms were extremely long. His entire being exuded a savage and terrifying aura. In fact, he was also cultivating the real body of sanguinate. Boom. Taking advantage of the fact that the Void Annihilation Dragon's blood essence was flowing backward, Qin Feng refined the entire grotto heaven in one go. A strange aura began to condense in his body. The power of the grotto heaven. As soon as this aura appeared, it began to devour the Galaxia True Force in Qin Feng's body. Countless mysteries of the void appeared in Qin Feng's eyes. The 18 spiritual marks formed by the mysteries of the void instantly intersected and formed a void world fruit that fell into his dantian. Void origin. The next step was to fuse with the Tao. After obtaining this void origin, his entire body underwent a miraculous change. The power of the grotto heaven instantly swallowed this fruit. As soon as it was swallowed, the entire grotto heaven underwent a miraculous change. A miraculous power was born in the crystal wall system. It expanded outward, as if countless illusory voids were born in the crystal wall system. This was the dimensional void. The world became infinitely vast. It was only 365 miles, but it gave people the feeling that the sky was vast and the sky was boundless. The growth of the grotto heaven. Isn't this an ability that only small grotto heavens have? Qin Feng was overjoyed. Obviously, he did not expect that the grotto heaven created by a void element expert would have such a benefit. After the Tao fusion, it was the Tao integration. What was the Tao integration? With heaven and earth as the cauldron, the sun and moon as the fire and water, yin and yang as the mechanism, the 5 elements as the mind, the temperament as the dragon and the tiger, the mind as the seed of truth, the heart as the fire, the breath as the fire, the light as the consolidation, and the subduing of inner demons as the fighting in the wild. Body, mind, and will were the three essences, the heaven's heart as the entrance, and the three elements as one as the spiritual altar. This was the Tao integration. Simply put, it was the power of the grotto heaven, the empyrean true nucleus in the body, and the void origin. If one succeeded in this step, they would be able to control the power of the grotto heaven and be called a giant. Qin Feng's Galaxia true force rapidly shrank. The empyrean true nucleus fused with the grotto heaven and refined the void origin. A mysterious change occurred, and a miraculous aura appeared. The power of a martial arts giant was called the Origin True Force, also known as the Grotto Heaven True Force. It was a power that could change the world. It was extremely powerful. As soon as this power appeared, Qin Feng's body emitted a silver-gray light, causing the void to fluctuate violently. Everywhere it passed by, the space would solidify. Qin Feng suppressed this change and was still observing in the dark, ready to act at any moment. Strands of Galaxia True Force were transformed, turning into a vast heavenly true force that was enough to destroy the world. Roar. At this moment, several wild and ferocious roars suddenly came from the depths of the endless void. Qin Feng's face changed. 4 void ferocious beasts, each more than 100 feet in size, rushed out from the depths of the endless void. The terrifying aura caused the void to tremble uneasily. The next moment, 4 rays of light that could shatter the sky bombarded the crystal wall. Kacha! Kacha! The crystal wall shook violently, and huge spiderweb-like ripples appeared in all directions. The thick crystal wall was visible to the naked eye, and in the blink of an eye, only a thin layer was left. The single-horned void-swallowing beast, void annihilation dragon, 100 transformation dark destruction ape, and a dark ancient beast. This time, 4 king-level void beasts came at once. This time, that brat is in big trouble. The time we have been waiting for has finally come. Looking at the 4 void beasts that suddenly came out from the depths of the endless void, the Mang Mountain 3 lords laughed and prepared to strike at any time. They wanted to divide everything Qin Feng had, and even snatch the newly born grotto heaven. Chapter 642. He actually attracted 4 king-class void beasts at the same time. Qin Feng's face turned gloomy as he snorted. Normally, when a Peak C reincarnation realm expert broke through, there would at most be a few void-devouring beasts. It was as though attracting an existence like the Void Annihilation Dragon was extremely unlucky. However, he attracted 4 of them at the same level at the same time. This wasn't a coincidence. It was obvious that someone used some unknown method to attract so many void beasts at once. However, Qin Feng wasn't angry. Instead, he sneered. Before I broke through, I might be wary of you. Now that I have broken through to the Nirvana realm, such an existence is simply here to give me a gift. The heavenly paradise true force in his body was rapidly transforming. In just a moment, more than half of the Milky Way true force had transformed into heavenly paradise true force. Rumble! Thunder rumbled above his head. The heavenly paradise true force in his body was rapidly depleting. Qin Feng raised his head and saw a beast that looked like a hungry wolf lying on top of the heavenly paradise true force. It had a pitch-black horn, and its eyes were emitting savagery and greed. It opened its mouth and sucked, swallowing the heavenly paradise true force like quicksand. Single-horned void-devouring beast. Qin Feng changed his appearance and silently appeared behind the single-horned void-devouring beast. Mountain-embracing seal. His left hand formed a fist seal, and an earth-yellow sacred mountain appeared. Qin Feng hugged the sacred mountain and smashed it down. Boom! The majestic mountain was majestic and unstoppable. It pressed down on the single-horned void-devouring beast as though it had the power to turn the world upside down. Apart from the Mang Mountain 3 sovereigns, Even the two Supreme Almighties had a change in expression. The two Supreme Almighties felt an extremely terrifying power from Qin Feng's body. This power wasn't the law that Almighties had, but an even more terrifying power. It was enough to twist and tear apart the laws. The single-horned void-devouring beast's horn, which was formed by the void essence, was instantly broken. The mountain smashed its scales and turned its flesh into meat paste. With a wave of his sleeve, the single-horned void-devouring beast turned into a rain of blood and scattered in the heavenly paradise. Qin Feng moved like a ghost and appeared behind the Void Annihilation Dragon in the next moment. The Void Annihilation Dragon looked extremely beautiful, but its nature was indeed as greedy as fire. The Void Annihilation Dragon's huge tail tore through the air and appeared in front of Qin Feng. Qin Feng sneered. He formed a golden seal with his hand, and the metal elemental divine mountain was like a divine sword. 10,000 rays of golden light collided. Roar! The Void Annihilation Dragon let out an earth-shattering shriek as its tail was severed. Blood splattered everywhere. The evil dragon stared at the tiny human in front of it in horror. A sliver of fear welled up in its heart. It abruptly turned its head and dived into the depths of the void without looking back. The people in the dark looked at this scene with ugly expressions. This was completely different from what he had imagined. With a flash, Qin Feng silently appeared behind a giant ape covered in gray scales. Roar! This 100-change dark extermination divine ape was more intelligent than the other three beasts. It was also more cunning. Boundless void power overlapped and surged around it. With a furious roar, one of its palms suddenly shattered the void. A human figure appeared in the void. Qin Feng was surprised. After breaking through to the Nirvana realm, he had condensed the heavenly paradise energy. His control over the void had increased by more than 10 times, but this giant ape still managed to uncover it. Countless waves of void power shrouded him, and his body became sluggish. There was also a strange force tearing at his body, trying to tear him into thousands of pieces and banish him to the depths of the void. No, this level of void power can't hurt me. Qin Feng let out a soft roar. The heavenly paradise energy around him turned into a huge black hole, devouring all the void power in one breath. Taking advantage of the situation, Qin Feng rushed out. He formed the flaming divine mountain seal with his left hand, and countless volcanoes formed from spiritual fire slammed onto the 100 transformation dark destruction divine ape's head. Roar! With an extremely tragic roar, the 100 transformation dark destruction divine ape was pressed down by a volcano. It was so hot that it cried out in pain. The 100 transformation dark destruction divine ape channeled its power, and waves of void power surged as it tried to escape. Qin Feng injected the heavenly paradise energy into the volcano, and it transformed into a volcanic world. It trapped the 100 transformation dark destruction divine ape and refined it inch by inch. There's another one. Qin Feng's gaze landed on a petite ancient beast. It was translucent and dark, and it flickered with the luster of destruction. Qin Feng realized that he couldn't see the ancient beast's figure clearly. Dark Void Beast. This was the strongest of the 4 Void Beasts. It was a rare type of destruction beast. This ancient beast was born when the world was destroyed. It was born to destroy heavenly paradises and mystic realms. It fed on the destructive power that was born after the heavenly paradises and mystic realms were destroyed. With every destroyed heavenly paradises and mystic realms, this ancient beast would become stronger. Qin Feng's expression was very solemn. This ancient beast was very evil, strange, and strong. Even 3 ancient beasts combined might not be a match for this ancient beast. This ancient beast often represented misfortune. If an ordinary heavenly paradises encountered such an existence, they wouldn't be able to escape the fate of destruction. Kiki, it's been a long time since I've encountered such a wonderful delicacy. The dark void beast looked at Qin Feng greedily. Instead, it looked down on the newly formed heavenly paradises. It can actually speak. Qin Feng's expression changed, and his eyes were extremely solemn. Ordinary dark void beasts only had one instinct, and that was to destroy. However, after destroying enough heavenly paradises, they would gradually develop complete intelligence. A dark void beast of that level was already very terrifying. They destroyed heavenly paradises as if they were playing around. Qin Feng had only heard of dark void beasts that could speak. A dark void beast of that level had probably become a holy beast. Only a sage could deal with it. However, Qin Feng was certain that the dark void beast before him wasn't a holy beast. Could it be a rare mutated dark void beast? Qin Feng wasn't the only one whose expression changed. Even the two Almighties were greatly surprised. A mutated dark void beast was 1 in 1,000 or even 1 in 10,000. Dark void beasts were extremely rare. Void beasts were extremely rare. This type of mutated beast was even rarer. This is too rare. Qin Feng's luck is too good. He actually attracted such an existence this time. The Almighty, who looked like a middle-aged scholar, had a sinister smile on his face. This time, we might not even have to do anything. This mutated dark void beast can take his life. Moreover, we might be able to obtain a mutated dark void beast at the same time. The middle-aged scholar stared greedily at the dark void beast. I heard that the dark void beast has a special constitution. It has a special ability that allows it to be perfectly possessed. Perfect possession was almost like regaining a lifetime without any flaws. Moreover, the dark void beast's aptitude was extremely good. It wasn't inferior to some demon-level geniuses. To be able to find a dark void beast was an opportunity that many martial Dao experts who were nearing the end of their lifespans dreamed of. Not to mention a mutated dark void beast. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. This time, not only can we kill Qin Feng, but we can also obtain a mutated dark void beast. What a joyous occasion! Chapter 643. Delicious. Qin Feng sneered as he floated in the air. He did not make the first move. At that moment the grotto heaven was born. The galaxy true power in his body was constantly transforming into grotto heaven power. Every 15 minutes, he was stronger than before. Whoosh! The dark void beast seemed to have noticed the changes in Qin Feng's body. In a flash, it appeared in front of the grotto heaven like a ray of black light. A pitch-black claw easily tore the grotto heaven apart. Before the feast, I'll have some appetizers. It was extremely sinister. It knew that the grotto heaven was Qin Feng's foundation. If the grotto heaven was destroyed, Qin Feng's strength would be greatly reduced. What a cunning beast! Qin Feng's face darkened. His body tore through the void like a sharp blade, and appeared in front of the dark void beast in the next moment. Void banishment! He clapped his hands. The grotto heaven power turned into a torrential river and enveloped the dark void beast. Dark yellow. With a strange laugh, a black shadow entered. The dark claw tore through the dense void power like a piece of cloth. A sharp claw appeared in Qin Feng's chest and was about to grab his heart. You can tear through my void banishment so easily. You do have some skills. Void freeze, void rewind. A faint gray light surged out from Qin Feng's eyes and enveloped the dark void beast. Its body instantly froze and retreated back to its original position. At the same time, an invisible void banishment torrent enveloped it. The void tore apart and the black gas surrounding the dark void beast was torn to pieces. Human brat, you do have some skills. However, you must be dreaming if you want to use the void power to deal with me. I'm a Khanate king born in the void. Using the void power to deal with me is just showing off in front of an expert. The dark void beast roared, and turned into a ray of black light that easily tore through the void power around it. A monstrous black light shrouded Qin Feng. Absolute darkness. This was a gigantic space of darkness, there was no night here. Qin Feng could feel an extremely dense dark energy of destruction surrounding him. The countless life forces in his body were silently seeped into by this darkness, obliterating them. Qin Feng could tell that this sacred art was similar to Lord Ba's infinite darkness. He seemed to be lost in the darkness, and even his true soul was completely wrapped up. Pucci. At this moment, Qin Feng felt a sharp pain in his chest. It was as if an invisible claw had pierced through his chest and grabbed his heart. Despite the intense pain, Qin Feng did not panic. Instead, he tightened his muscles and clamped down on the sharp claw. At the same time, his hands were like two giant snakes that grabbed onto the dark void beast that had attacked him. Crack! There was the sound of bones breaking. An evil wind blew. Qin Feng felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. At this moment, he could feel the blood in his body being continuously sucked away. His expression was cold as he laughed. Bastard, you are indeed a bastard. Eating raw meat and drinking blood. Today, I will let you drink as much as you want. The heavenly abode true power changed rapidly. Qin Feng's body lit up with a pure brilliance. His true power quickly turned into the absolute beginning heavenly abode true power, and a wave of light shook out a terrifying wave. The dark void beast felt something was wrong. It was a terrifying existence born from the origin of destruction, and its natural nemesis was light. Ah, this is the absolute beginning light, and it's the innate light. How can you possess such a terrifying light elemental power? This is impossible. Amidst the mournful screams, tens of thousands of white lights pierced out and dispersed the dark fog released by the dark void beast like a sieve. The entire space of absolute darkness was illuminated by an eternal light. A strange little beast appeared in front of Qin Feng. It had 3 horns and dark skin. At this moment, its 2 large black eyes were filled with terror. Countless amounts of black gas seeped out from under its pitch-black scales. Its entire body seemed to be evaporating inch by inch under the endless radiance. It's the innate absolute beginning power. In the depths of the darkness, the 2 Almighties looked at each other. Their faces were filled with shock and greed. Innate vitality, innate strength, they were rare in the world. Only some ancient secret realms might possess 1 or 2 of these treasures, and they could be said to be extremely precious. Innate vitality had incredible power, whether it was used to refine divine powers or to forge ultimate treasures. The dark void beast can't hold on any longer. Let's do it. The 2 Almighties looked at each other. The scholarly man's figure flashed, and he stabbed out with his sword. Like a bolt of lightning, it instantly bombarded Qin Feng's body. Pfft! The sword light turned, and Qin Feng's body was instantly split into 2. However, in the next moment, the 2 halves of his body quickly merged back together in the void. The dark void beast barely escaped with its life. When it saw the 2 Almighties descending, it turned into a black light and tried to escape. Bang! However, in the next moment it crashed into a big somersault. It let out a low roar, and the surrounding void was completely sealed by the 2 Almighties. At the same time, just as Qin Feng's body was reassembled, a black gust of wind whistled from the void and enveloped Qin Feng's body. Qin Feng's expression changed, and he gathered his heavenly insight energy to cover himself. However, wherever the black wind passed, the heavenly insight energy was torn apart. As the black wind blew past, Qin Feng let out a muffled groan. Blood splattered everywhere, and countless pieces of flesh and skin disappeared inch by inch, leaving only pure bones. In God-level wind elemental law power? Qin Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. Silver light shone around his body, and abundant vitality rushed out from his bones. He was reborn again. What a powerful little brat. You can even regenerate your body. That's troublesome, but it doesn't matter. You've met 2 Almighties. No matter how many times you regenerate, you'll still die in the end. A bolt of lightning suddenly appeared. The middle-aged scholar held an ancient sword that was covered in lightning. With a slash, 10,000 bolts of lightning bombarded Qin Feng's body. Rumble! It was as if they had bombarded an iron plate, and a sonorous sound was heard. The clanging sounds were endless. Silver light rolled back, and the void was torn apart. Blood and bones burst out. Under the attack of two almighties, Qin Feng couldn't even fight back. One was a wind elemental supreme almighty, while the other was a thunder elemental supreme almighty. As soon as the two of them appeared, they put on a killing stance and locked down the void. Qin Feng was like a mouse in a jar. Kid, if you're smart, surrender and hand over all your treasures and even your heavenly insight. I can be merciful and let you have a quick death. Thunder rumbled as the middle-aged man looked at Qin Feng. His eyes were filled with coldness, as if he was looking at a fish on a chopping board. Who are you people? Why are you ambushing me? Qin Feng's flesh and blood recovered in the silver light. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes were filled with extreme coldness. You're about to die. You don't have the right to know all this. If you're smart, take the initiative and hand over all your treasures, especially the innate yin and yang qi and the innate light of absolute beginning. In the black wind, a black-robed woman with a cold face said with a sharp gaze. Qin Feng's eyes were dark and cold. You want my treasures? Let's see if you have what it takes. Chapter 644. In the void, wind and thunder roared, occasionally mixed with angry roars. Rumble! The surging power drowned the void. Countless five elements divine lightning shot into the void like raindrops, causing the void to distort and fluctuate. A figure shuttled through the void like a white steed flitting through a crack. Kid, you won't be able to escape today. In terms of lightning arts, I'm the ancestor. The middle-aged Confucian scholar sneered and waved his arm. He held his battle sword and slashed at the void. Streaks of divine lightning streaked across the void, filled with destructive power. The pressure caused the space to rumble. The momentum was terrifying. Chaotic earth tribulation. A streak of yellow gas that stretched for miles rushed out from his body and turned into a mountain range. The lightning tore apart a stretch of mountains and slashed onto Qin Feng's body. Half of his body was hit. Qin Feng was sent flying. A wound that was a few feet deep appeared on his body, faintly surrounded by lightning. Qin Feng was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. The two supreme almighties had the absolute upper hand. The two of them rushed forward again and beheaded Qin Feng in the endless void. The battle intent in Qin Feng's eyes soared to the heavens. Although he was at a disadvantage, Qin Feng's eyes were still filled with a surging battle intent. Every time his body was shattered, he would immediately reassemble his body and attack again. In this life and death battle, his Galaxia True Force was rapidly transforming into Heavenly Insight Force. What an amazing fighting spirit! The Mang Mountain Three Lords were shocked. It was hard to imagine that a martial Dao overlord could fight with a supreme almighty for so long. Half of the martial Dao overlords would probably be killed by a supreme almighty with just a glance. Even some of the top evildoers could only last for a few breaths at most. Within a few breaths, the supreme almighty would find an opening and kill them in one fell swoop. This was not just a suppression in terms of strength. When one reached the level of a supreme being, they had already mastered countless martial arts and martial technique. With just a raise of their hand, they would be able to attack from an angle that ordinary martial artists could not imagine. The three of them could see that even though Qin Feng was at a disadvantage, his defense was extremely tight and impenetrable. How could he make the first preparations to deal with the attacks of the two supreme powerhouses? This kind of combat awareness was extremely fast, far surpassing some of the top monsters of the same level. If he didn't rely on his strength to crush them, the two supreme almighties wouldn't be able to do anything to him. What a freak! Lao Xuelin, the third of the three sovereigns, was shocked beyond words. The most peculiar thing is the heavenly abode true force in his body. I'm afraid it has already reached the level of heavenly law. Otherwise, no matter how strong his combat awareness is, he would have been killed in one move. Lao Susal stared at Qin Feng with a pair of blood-red eyes. He sensed an extremely vast, even unfathomable, great power. This power wasn't the power of laws, but it wasn't inferior to laws. Heavenly Tao true power. The two almighty figures trembled as they sucked in a breath of cold air. There might not be a genius among 1,000 martial artists, and there might not be a single genius among 1,000 geniuses who could cultivate a heavenly law technique. The three brothers of the Lao family were originally bandit. When they exterminated a family, they obtained the Blood Soul Secret Scroll and made a name for themselves. The Blood Soul Secret Scroll contained many powerful techniques. It was the legacy of the Blood Soul sect from the ancient age of annihilation. It was also considered a peerless technique. Along the way, the three brothers had killed countless people and had many fortuitous encounters. However, they only had the true force of a stage 6 true dragon. They were far from the heavenly law technique. No wonder true monarch Black Wind and true monarch Thundercloud couldn't do anything to him, even though they were both famous and powerful figures in the 10 Directions spirit domain. The three of them were extremely jealous, but they were even more filled with killing intent. Since they had offended such a terrifying enemy, they had to eliminate him completely. Let's get ready to attack. Lao Susal's face was gloomy. Boom. The Greater Void 5 Elements Annihilation True Thunder technique was activated consecutively. Rays of 5-colored lightning exploded and pierced through the void. Between life and death, this thunder technique changed in Qin Feng's hands again. It had started to combine the 5 colors to form the True 5 Elements Annihilation True Thunder. The surging 5 Elements Annihilation True Thunder exploded the void and destroyed it. It was a powerful explosion. The two supreme powerhouses looked at each other and were filled with killing intent. They could also feel Qin Feng's improvement. Thunderous Killing Sword. Dark God Black Wind. The thunderous sword radiance slashed through the sky. Wherever the black wind passed, a black scar appeared in the void. There were faint signs of withering and death. Qin Feng's expression was cold. His body flashed and appeared silently in the newly formed Grotto Heaven. He has returned to the Grotto Heaven. Good, let's catch him. True Monarch Thundercloud sneered. He straightened his hand and a surging force isolated the void. True Monarch Black Wind appeared on the other side of the Grotto Heaven and used void control to seal the void with absolute power. The newly formed Grotto Heaven, including the Dark Void Beast, was sealed. There was no way out. Good, Qin Feng is dead for sure. We have to attack and beat him while he's down. If we can't beat him, we can still get some benefits. The Mang Mountain 3 lords flashed and appeared in the void. They used Void Seal from 3 different directions. True Monarch Thundercloud shouted. The 3 of you came at the right time. Let's attack this newly formed Grotto Heaven from 5 different directions and capture the target alive. The 2 of us only want Qin Feng and the Dark Void Beast. We can leave this Grotto Heaven to you. The Mang Mountain 3 lords looked at each other and were dissatisfied. The 3 of them valued the Khanate Yin-Yang Qi and the Khanate Primordial Light. These were Khanate items. With these Khanate items, the 3 of them might have a few chances to cultivate the heavenly Tao and have a glimpse of the Tao of the demon god. Senior Thundercloud, Senior Black Wind, we will obey your orders. Lao Xueshua suppressed his dissatisfaction and said gloomily. True Monarch Thundercloud and True Monarch Black Wind saw the expressions of the Mang Mountain 3 rapscallions. The Mang Mountain 3 rapscallions had a great reputation. However, compared to the 2 of them, they were nothing. Once Qin Feng was dealt with, the 3 of them couldn't be left behind. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with coldness when he saw the people outside swaggering and starting to divide his possessions. In the next moment, he waved his sleeves and summoned the Earth God Mountain and the Flaming God Mountain back. The 100 transformation dark destruction divine ape suppressed under the Flaming God Mountain had all changed. A rich essence appeared in the void along with the Flaming God Mountain, like a white dragon. Qin Feng swallowed the rolling essence like a whale sucking in water, turning it into life divine light to cleanse his flesh and soul. His entire body was emitting an extremely rich life divine light. Buzz, buzz. His mind shook. The 10th divine treasure true acupoint was finally condensed under the cleansing of the life divine essence of this ancient void beast that had lived for thousands of years. Qin Feng's last shortcoming was fixed. In an instant, his entire body spurted out thousands of rays of light, like a divine sword that had been brushed off of rust, finally emitting its own unique treasure light. His entire body was emitting an inextinguishable faint light, like an inextinguishable divine light. Qin Feng laughed wildly. The 5th level of the 8 Desolates indestructible realm, the blood drop undying realm. At the same time, the galaxy true force in his body had transformed by more than 10 times. In the blink of an eye, most of the galaxy true force had turned into a dazzling silver light, like the heavenly abode true force of the stars. A violent aura was emitted, distorting the void and shaking the heavens. True Monarch Thundercloud and True Monarch Black Wind's expressions changed drastically. Oh no, his physical body has broken through. Everyone, immediately use your unique divine ability to tear his heavenly abode apart. Don't let him complete the final transformation. Chapter 645. Boom! Several forces cut through the void like a falling galaxy, causing the surroundings of the grotto heaven to shake violently. Although the grotto heaven created by Qin Feng was more perfect and had greater potential than other grotto heavens, it was still a small grotto heaven after all. It was already the result of Qin Feng's extreme grade 4 true force not shattering under the joint attack of 3 martial Dao powerhouses and 2 supreme powerhouses. Otherwise, an ordinary grotto heaven would have been completely torn apart with just one attack. Qin Feng's expression did not change as he formed seals with his 10 fingers. The 5 sacred mountains turned into 5 mountains and firmly suppressed the grotto heaven that was beginning to shake. 5-colored divine light soared into the sky. The 5 divine mountains were like heavenly pillars that supported the sky, forming a formation. Qin Feng was sitting in the center. The power of extreme grade 4 heavenly insight realm was poured into the 5 divine mountains. The 5-colored haze was extremely gorgeous. The power of the 5 elements? The 5 people outside temporarily stopped their attack. The expressions of the 3 beasts of Mount Mang turned gloomy. The big boss, the Blood Soul, looked at Perfected Lord Thundercloud and Perfected Lord Black Wind. This won't do. His divine ability is strange. It seems to be able to summon an invisible force to suppress the crystal wall. The defensive ability of the crystal wall has increased by more than 10 times. Perfected Lord Blackwind sneered. It doesn't matter. Although this item can resist for a while, as long as I continue to attack, the power of the 5 sacred mountains will not be able to suppress it. Her eyes were cold. At this time, Qin Feng was already a turtle in a jar, meat on the chopping board. No matter how he struggled, he was destined to be unable to escape. We will attack with all our strength. When we bring back the original body, we will cast a spell to attract even more powerful void beasts. He won't be able to resist for long. An item appeared in her hand. It was an alms bowl that contained a layer of black evil sand. This was a pseudo-true weapon, the 7 Demons Alms Bowl. It contained the poisonous sand that she had collected for hundreds of years. The black evil wind that assisted him was like a tiger that had grown wings. Perfected Lord Thundercloud took out a ring that seemed to be carved out of diamond and contained countless thunderclouds. Crackle! Countless thunderclouds were brewing above the ring, and a terrifying force was vibrating. This was a false true artifact, the Thunderclap realm-breaking bracelet. Perfected Lord Thundercloud looked at the grotto heaven in front of him and sneered. His Thunderbolt realm-breaking bracelet was made from the essence of the divine thunder and contained a trace of the power of the chaotic heavenly thunder. It was easy for him to destroy the grotto heaven. The three fiends of Mount Mang looked at each other. The three brothers nodded and stretched out their palms at the same time. Three blood-red lights gathered together, and within the waves of blood, a blood-red banner appeared. Azura Blood Soul Banner. This was an ancient treasure shared by the three brothers. It was a true treasure. Perfected Lord Thundercloud's and Perfected Lord Blackwind's expressions changed slightly. The next moment they turned their heads. Only a trace of shock and greed remained in the corners of their eyes. Inside the heavenly abode, Qin Feng watched the commotion outside as if he was watching a fire from the other side of the river. Seeing several people taking out treasures one after another, Qin Feng's expression changed again and again. Attack! Accompanied by a loud shout, several true treasures bombarded the crystal walls of the heavenly grotto like thunder. The entire heavenly grotto was on the verge of collapse. Good, it's shaking. Just a few more hits and this heavenly grotto will definitely shatter. Thundercloud's eyes lit up and his killing intent skyrocketed. The Thunderbolt world-breaking bracelet in his hand bombarded the crystal walls of the heavenly grotto like a bolt of divine lightning. The transparent crystal walls seemed to have been hit by an irresistible force and were about to be penetrated. Once the crystal walls were smashed, the entire heavenly grotto would be completely exposed. At that time, even if Qin Feng had the ability to not die from a single drop of blood, he would not be able to escape death. It's time to start that plan. Looking at the newly opened heavenly grotto, Qin Feng sneered. The strength of a heavenly grotto was directly related to the strength of a martial Dao overlord. Qin Feng had two heavenly grottos. What Qin Feng had to do now was to merge the two heavenly grottos into one. If the two heavenly grottos were merged into one, Qin Feng might become a martial Dao mighty figure in a single step. That was Qin Feng's true foundation. However, it was not an easy task. Qin Feng's expression didn't change. He allowed those people to attack him from the outside. Although this heavenly paradise was newly formed, it still had 365 cycles and its foundation was extremely strong. In addition to the pressure from the 5 divine mountains, it would still take a period of time before the heavenly paradise was destroyed. Qin Feng needed an altar. The Chaos Heaven's mystic realm was much stronger than this mystic realm. Although it was damaged and imperfect, it was massive in size. If not for the group of people outside, Qin Feng would have chosen to slowly digest it. But now, he could not. Qin Feng faintly felt an extremely strong sense of crisis. The materials needed to construct an altar were extremely simple. This time, Qin Feng was no longer constructing an Origins altar. There were many types of Fiend Celestials, but there were only a few that were of a higher level. Origins Fiend Celestials and Creation Fiend Celestials were 2 of them. They were 2 of the 9 highest-level Fiend Celestials. Origins Fiend Celestials controlled the great Tao of Origins. They naturally suppressed Fiend Celestials from the various lineages that had attained their Tao. Creation Fiend Celestials split the world apart. In essence, they were superior to ordinary Fiend Celestials. They were known as one of the strongest Fiend Celestials. Origins Fiend Celestials had Origins altars. Creation Fiend Celestials had Creation altars. Ultimate Fiend Celestials had Destruction altars. Guardian Fiend Celestials had Heavenly Tao altars. Qin Feng had once helped Madame Bone construct an Origins altar. This time, Qin Feng wanted to construct an altar himself. He wanted to construct a creation altar. Creation fiend celestials were mighty existences that were born in the later stages of the Golden Era. They were above all fiend celestials of the present day. An altar rapidly appeared under Qin Feng's hand imprint. This was an altar formed from the Grotto Heaven's origins powers. The moment the altar appeared, it seemed to be innately compatible with the Grotto Heaven. It was connected to the endless void and had an invisible mighty force. Boom! With the appearance of the altar, the Grotto Heaven that was on the brink of collapse from the repeated bombardments suddenly stabilized. The moment the altar appeared, it seemed to temper all the chaotic Grotto Heaven's yuan qi. It condensed into one, turning from a disk into a fist. The 5 divine mountains' powers were condensed. What's going on? The expressions of the 3 fiends of Mount Mang changed. The 3 of them could clearly feel that the Grotto Heaven that was about to break apart earlier had condensed once again. If the Grotto Heaven's crystal wall was previously an earthen wall, it was now an iron plate. Through the crystal wall, the 5 of them could see that a sun-like object had appeared in the Grotto Heaven. The sun-like object exuded an incredible brilliance. Wherever it passed, the Grotto Heaven's crystal wall seemed to have been condensed thousands of times, becoming extremely powerful. Roar! 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 At this moment, the roar of a beast came from the void. The terrifying sound shook the void, causing the 5 of them to change their expressions. Whoosh! Whoosh! The void yuan qi in the endless void surged like a tide. A colossal creature that was hundreds of feet long appeared in front of them. It was a void annihilation dragon. However, this void annihilation dragon was more than 10 times larger than the previous 2. Its graceful figure exuded a boundless aura that caused the 5 of them in the void to tremble. This is a quasi-sacred beast. His Excellency's expression turned extremely ugly. The void annihilation dragon's ferocious and cold eyes looked over. The 5 of them were as tiny as ants, unable to move. The 5 of them heaved a sigh of relief. The void annihilation dragon looked at them disdainfully and snorted. Its gaze shifted to the Grotto Heaven that Qin Feng was in, revealing an extremely greedy expression. Chapter 646. The Void Annihilation Dragon felt an unprecedented power. Its bloodline instinct told it that swallowing this Grotto Heaven would bring it unimaginable benefits. Seeing the appearance of the Void Annihilation Dragon King, Qin Feng's heart skipped a beat. It was a quasi-sacred beast. A quasi-sacred beast. Qin Feng cursed in his heart. This group of people was crazy. Attracting such a terrifying beast. Were they not afraid of getting into trouble? Senior Sister Lingro, what's going on? This dragon-luring incense shouldn't have attracted a monster like the Void Annihilation Dragon King. Sage Thundercloud's chest was about to explode from anger after escaping death. The dragon-luring incense was made by the 2 of them, and Sage Thundercloud knew it was impossible for such a spiritual incense to attract a quasi-sacred beast. Sage Black Windling Rose's expression was unnatural. When she met Yu Huatian, she had an indescribable relationship with him. When they were in bed, she had shown Yu Huatian the secret spiritual incense that they had made together. Out of curiosity, Yu Huatian had asked her to see it and even played with it for a while. Now, it seemed that Yu Huatian had done something. Maybe it was an accident. The Void Dragon King was nearby, so it was attracted here. Sage Black Windling Rose's beautiful face flashed with a trace of coldness and anger. A day as husband and wife meant endless devotion for the rest of their lives. She never thought that Yu Huatian would actually put her to death. Taking advantage of the chaos, the dark void beast quietly disappeared into the endless void. It took the opportunity to escape. Sage Thundercloud's expression was frighteningly gloomy. The 3 beasts of Mount Mang also fled to the other side. The 3 beasts looked at the other side with unwillingness. They could only wait for the Void Dragon King to devour it. Crack! The Void Dragon King was extremely violent. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down on the grotto heaven. This grotto heaven was created by Qin Feng, so he felt as if it was bitten by a poisonous snake. A destructive force was released from the fangs and tore the crystal walls of the grotto heaven. Qin Feng noticed that the crystal walls of the grotto heaven, which the true weapons could not tear, were extremely fragile under the fangs and were being torn apart layer by layer. What a powerful beast! Qin Feng cursed inwardly as he began transferring the chaos heavenly grotto heaven's origins into the creation altar. 2 grotto heavens, 2 origins. Even if they were created by the same powerhouse, it was not easy to fuse them together. However, with the creation altar, the process was much easier. Rumble. Extremely rich, heavenly abode source energy poured in. The newly born heavenly abode was like a crying baby that had found a pacifier. It began to crazily suck in, trying its best to absorb yin and yang. Inside Qin Feng's body, there seemed to be a grotto heaven that was beginning to fuse with the new grotto heaven inch by inch. Countless crystal walls were born. Outside the cave, the void annihilation dragon king felt as if the soft and delicious thing had suddenly become a hard bone that he couldn't chew through no matter how hard he tried. Yet, this bone exuded an irresistible fragrance. The void dragon king bellowed furiously and spat out a mouthful of pale yellow flames from its bloody mouth. The origin flame of the void. This is a power comparable to the sun god's laws. From afar, as they felt the light yellow flames burning the void and melting the blazing power of the laws, the 5 of them paled. A stage 1 martial Tao mighty figure could control the true soul laws. A stage 2 supreme mighty figure could control the yin soul laws. A stage 3 quasi-sage could already use the yang soul laws. The power of the yang soul laws was definitely not something the typical yin soul laws could withstand. Extreme yin gave birth to yang. The stage 3 yang soul laws had a pure yang power that could destroy the void. If the yin soul laws were described as a piece of iron, then the yang soul laws were like tempered steel. Its destructive power was definitely not something the ordinary yin soul laws could match. Sizzle! Sizzle! Under the void dragon king's frenzied refinement of his intrinsic void divine fire, the upper layer of the grotto heaven's crystal walls could no longer withstand the heat. They turned soft and were about to be burned through. Inside the grotto heaven, it looked as though a burning cloud of fire had appeared in the sky, as though it would descend at any moment to destroy the entire grotto heaven. Qin Feng frowned as he immediately accelerated the melting of the chaos heavens. Boom! A fiery red spirit root appeared on the ground. A top-grade fire elemental spirit root, flint wood. The moment the flint wood appeared, it emitted a mighty power. It condensed the yellow sand in the new grotto heaven, turning it soft and filled with a sense of compaction. Even the entire crystal wall was condensed from the inside by the spirit root. The crystal wall was tempered both inside and outside by the divine fire, as though it was undergoing a magical and incredulous change. Qin Feng carefully sensed the changes as he spewed out a mouthful of essence qi. It was as though a sacred being was mending the heavens. The empty sky actually had color. It went from pure white to green glass, and finally, it emitted rainbow-colored changes. Roar! The grotto heaven's crystal walls that were about to be burned through became firm once again. The Void Dragon King was enraged as a violent aura blasted out in every direction. From afar, the quintet looked at the enraged Void Dragon King and were alarmed. They hurriedly retreated 500 kilometers. The Void Dragon King did not care about the cost as he compressed the flames he spewed out. The flames turned from a pale yellow color to an extremely resplendent golden color. The golden flames emitted an extremely high temperature that even melted the void storms. This Void Annihilation Dragon King has gone mad from anger. It's actually using its intrinsic holy fire. It's burning its intrinsic essence qi. The quintet was dumbfounded. There was a shuddering feeling. Even if a saint's intrinsic grotto heaven encountered such terrifying flames, it would be burned through or even completely melted. Qin Feng sensed the melting of the grotto heaven's crystal walls. That shouldn't be the case. Does my grotto heaven really have an extraordinary attraction to void beasts? The Void Annihilation Dragon King is actually using its intrinsic holy fire. This intrinsic holy fire is condensed from its intrinsic essence Qi. It's where its hopes of becoming a sacred beast lie. Under typical circumstances, such a crafty beast would not risk its life in such a manner. Qin Feng was secretly puzzled as he accelerated the melting of the chaos heavens once again. Soon, a earth gold thread appeared from the earth vein. The earth gold thread rapidly condensed earth Qi, stabilizing it. The crystal wall's tolerance seemed to increase by another level. It no longer looked like it was rapidly melting under the holy fire. However, this was just a drop in the bucket. The next moment, 3 ancient spirit roots appeared. They were 3 calabash spirit roots that were tender and supple. They were emerald green and rooted deep into the ground as a layer of wood Qi swept through the world. The entire grotto heaven had an additional hint of vitality. The vitality was injected into the grotto heaven's crystal walls, adding a layer of toughness to them. Although the crystal wall was constantly melting under the holy fire, it began to squirm and recover. It no longer needed Qin Feng to be the firefighter. Roar! The Void Annihilation Dragon King sensed the changes. It never expected that the darn crystal wall would recover just as it was about to burn through it. The Void Annihilator Dragon King, whose brain seemed to be lacking, was instantly enraged. Its eyes turned red as it channeled its holy flames without regard for the cost, burning down the crystal wall. Despite its desperate efforts, the crystal wall was unable to recover as quickly as it was being destroyed. Soon, only a thin layer of the crystal wall was left. Chapter 647. Just as the crystal wall was about to be burned through, countless golden lights appeared, and an ancient tree with a golden glow appeared. It was the desolate iron tree, a top-grade metal-type spiritual root. A spot of extremely pure golden light entered the grotto heaven. The entire paradise was illuminated like a diamond membrane, emitting an immortal luster. The entire heavenly abode was expanding. In an instant, it had expanded from its original size of 365 li to around 810 li in radius. The Void Annihilation Dragon King let out a furious roar and retracted his holy flames. He stared at the paradise greedily, but he was powerless to refine it. Top-grade fire element spiritual root, flint wood, top-grade earth element spiritual root, earth yellow lotus, 3 wood element spiritual roots, a type of gourd vine, and the great desolate iron tree, a descendant of the divine metal element spiritual root. How could Qin Feng fuse so many top-grade spiritual roots into his body? In the void, the 5 people's eyes were red with greed. They couldn't wait to tear the paradise apart and take the top-grade spiritual roots for themselves. No, his paradise is as stable as Mount Tai under the support of so many spiritual root. Although the Void Annihilation Dragon King is powerful, he can't break the paradise. This was the power of a top-grade spiritual root. Having a top-grade spiritual root in the paradise seemed to increase one's strength by a lot. The 5 people were mad with jealousy, but they didn't dare to charge forward. Although the Void Annihilation Dragon King couldn't do anything to Qin Feng, if the 3 of them charged forward together, they would most likely become the Void Annihilation Dragon King's punching bag. A bunch of trash. Sure enough, the king will replace you. At this moment, a faint and chilling voice sounded in the dark and endless void. Who is it? Sage Thundercloud was furious as he scanned the surroundings. An extremely cold aura descended from the void silently. Everywhere it passed, the void storms froze and were sealed in ice. True Monarch Zi Wulong Jun Yen. True Monarch Thundercloud and True Monarch Blackwind's expressions changed slightly. Their eyes were filled with anger, but there was also a hint of fear. Although Long Junyan was only a peak rank 1 almighty, his true soul's ice laws were exceptionally sharp. True monarch Ziwu's reputation was not undeserved. He was forged from the flesh and blood of countless experts. Fortunately, my senior brothers had long predicted that trash like you wouldn't be able to accomplish anything, so they sent me to Cloud Lake to invite a few strong reinforcements. Otherwise, that brat Qin Feng might have succeeded this time. Long Junyan coldly glanced at the 5 of them. The 5 of them flew into a rage. They were all famous figures in the 10 Directions spirit realm, and their status was revered. When had they ever been scolded like this? The 5 of them were not kind people, and their eyes flashed with ferocious light. Humph! At this moment, a cold snort came from the void like the roar of the sea. Under this majestic force that covered the sky, the 5 of them were shocked and spat out mouthfuls of blood. It's a saint! The 5 of them were horrified. In the void, there was a lithe and graceful figure that looked like a sea goddess. This Qin Feng is actually so valuable. Long Junyan was crazy with jealousy. As a direct disciple of Xingqian school, even he did not have a top-grade spirit root. However, although I don't have your luck, I can make you lose everything. She sneered. Seeing this figure, Long Junyan's eyes flashed with surprise, but he lowered his head in the next moment. Your Majesty, I still need you to do it. The Siren Queen's bright eyes swept across the 5 of them. The 5 of them tensed up, and a layer of cold sweat seeped out. This was a true saint. A rank 1 almighty, a rank 2 supreme almighty, a rank 3 young god quasi-sage, and a rank 4 void true sage. Thoughts turned into true soul condensed in, pure yang, and void space with a single thought. A rank 4 void true sage had the terrifying ability of void space with a single thought. Their grotto heaven could create a dimensional void, and their power was far beyond that of an ordinary quasi-sage. There are actually so many top-grade spirit roots. The Siren Queen's eyes immediately fell on the grotto heaven, and the spiritual light emitted by the top-grade spirit roots made her look surprised. The entire Siren race only had one top-grade water-type spirit root, the Blue Demon Divine Tree. Compared to Qin Feng, the entire Siren race was like a beggar. To be able to obtain so many spirit roots, it was worth it for me to personally take action. The Siren Queen's eyes were filled with satisfaction, and she appeared outside the grotto heaven in the next moment. Roar! Seeing that the Siren Queen had the intention of dividing the cake, the Void Annihilation Dragon King, who was hovering outside the grotto heaven, let out a low and ferocious roar, and a huge breath locked onto the Siren Queen. Oh, it's a rare Void Annihilation Dragon King. This can be used as a mount. The Siren Queen nodded. She stretched out a hand, and a formless tsunami-like force erupted from her fingertips. A beam of blue light tore through the Void Annihilation Dragon King's breath like a cannonball, hit the Void Annihilation Dragon King's bloody mouth, and instantly penetrated it. Countless streaks of blood spurted out, dyeing the void red. The Void Annihilation Dragon King let out a loud scream, and in the next moment, a watery light descended and enveloped the Void Annihilation Dragon King, which was hundreds of feet tall. The watery light turned and formed a huge water ball. The water ball shrank inch by inch, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a water ball the size of a palm. In the middle of the water ball, a mini Void Annihilation Dragon King dashed left and right, but it was running towards the water ball. In the void, True Monarch Thundercloud and True Monarch Blackwind were in a daze. This is the power of void transformation with a single thought. It's at the level of a sage. The faces of Mount Mang's 3 fiends turned pale. A quasi-sage void overlord was captured alive in a single move. 5 bumpkins. A sage can transform the void with a single thought, and even 100,000 feet of void can transform into a universal meson with a single thought. How can an ordinary martial artist compare to these 5 great existences? Long Junyan sneered. Everyone below a sage was an ant, and this wasn't a lie. It's her. My cheap mother-in-law is here. The moment the Siren Queen appeared, Qin Feng recognized his cheap mother-in-law. Back then, he had transformed into Prince Yu Hua of the Blackwater tribe and defeated the 9th princess. He had formed a great bond with the Siren Queen. Qin Feng's gaze fell on Long Junyan, and a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. As he had expected, this group of people was stirring up trouble in the dark. Gong Ao, Long Junyan, Yu Huatian, wait until I'm successful in my cultivation. I'll uproot all of you. Qin Feng cursed in his heart, and his face turned solemn. Now that a sage had arrived, his paradise might not be able to withstand it. The Siren Queen's gaze fell outside the paradise, and a strange look appeared in her eyes. After pondering for a while, she waved her sleeves, and a blue light pierced the sky and bombarded the paradise. Rumble! The entire paradise shook violently as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. Layers of cracks that looked like spider webs appeared on the crystal walls. Qin Feng felt the impact, and a mouthful of blood gushed up from the depths of his throat. His true soul shook violently, and he couldn't calm down for a long time. With just one strike, the entire paradise seemed like it was going to be blown apart. The Siren Queen's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. A normal paradise would be completely torn apart by this strike. This paradise's potential was something she had never seen before. If we can seize this paradise and give it to the younger generation of our tribe to refine, perhaps our tribe will be able to give birth to an influential almighty in the future. This is so annoying. I can't send anything for an entire day. Chapter 648. Qin Feng could feel that the Siren Queen's eyes seemed to be sizing up her own treasures as if she was sizing them up. Do you think my grotto heaven is already yours? Qin Feng sneered as a nameless rage burned in his heart. These people thought he was a pushover that could be easily bullied. After suppressing his anger, Qin Feng sped up once again. Instantly, nearly a third of the Chaos Heavens fused into the Grotto Heaven. The Grotto Heaven powers in his body surged as his cultivation level broke through the early stages of the Nirvana realm in a blink of an eye. He entered the mid-stages of the Nirvana realm and reached the peak of the mid-stages. Countless aqueous beams lingered around him. 2 spirit springs appeared one after another. The extremely cold Frost Soul Spirit Spring and the Life Spirit Spring brimmed with vital energy. The entire crystal wall was nourished. The crystal wall that looked like it was about to be destroyed instantly began mending itself. It became even more inclusive. The 5 powers of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth were enhanced to their limit. The entire crystal wall was suffused with 5 colors. Amidst the chaos, there was an order that flowed endlessly. It was inextinguishable. Top-grade water elemental spiritual items. Frost Soul Spirit Spring, Life Spirit Spring, and a pool of 7 stars Dragon Spring. The Siren Queen chuckled. Truly impressive. It looks like I've caught a fat sheep today. With a flick of his sleeve, a tangible dust grotto heaven appeared. The tangible dust grotto heaven instantly reached the periphery of the grotto heaven like a meteor before instantly exploding. The strength of a grotto heaven was immense. It was as though a martial Tao mighty figure had given up everything to explode. Boom! The grotto heaven's crystal wall quaked violently as the entire grotto heaven began quaking. The ground cracked as cracks appeared. Terrifying Yuan Qi tornadoes appeared above the landmass. The grotto heaven's core shook from the self-destruction. Heavens, this is incredible! He actually self-destructed his grotto heaven. This sage has really gone all out. Lao Xuelin, the third of MT Mang's 3 Banes, was the first to react. A grotto heaven was the foundation of a martial Tao mighty figure. The self-destruction of a grotto heaven was basically impossible to recover from. It would cause permanent damage, preventing one from advancing any further. Unless it was a matter of life and death, no one would use a move like self-destructing their grotto heaven. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. This is the unique ability of a saint. A saint can create one or two such heavenly abodes with a single thought. A powerful saint can easily create 7 or 8 such heavenly abodes with a single thought. Long Junyan glanced at the 3 villains of Mount Mang and sneered disdainfully. The 3 fiends of Mount Mang were enraged, but they soon restrained themselves. This Long Junyan was not someone they could provoke. Both true Lord Thundercloud and true Lord Black Wind were terrified. The might of a saint was far beyond imagination. He was able to create a new grotto heaven to self-destruct with a single thought. How terrifying was that! Even supreme mighty figures like them would be blasted to death by the explosion of their grotto heavens. A tyrannical saint was able to create a string of heavenly abodes to self-destruct within minute. What kind of power was that? Qin Feng felt as if his internal organs had been crushed. The entire grotto heaven trembled violently. Even a few spirit roots withered. He secretly gritted his teeth and used the powers of the creation altar. He tried his best to pacify the chaotic Yuan Qi in the grotto heaven. He condensed all the Yuan Qi and tried his best to form a stable and orderly force. However, the grotto heaven had fused with too much of the chaos heaven's origins. It was massive, so he was momentarily unable to control it. This won't do. My soul force is too weak. I can't control such a massive grotto heaven. Qin Feng's eyes shimmered as he began to activate the Abyssal Fiend diagram in his soul. The Abyssal Fiend diagram was formed from the remnants of his soul force from his previous life. With the two combined, Qin Feng's soul force rapidly increased in a short period of time. A trace of demonic light surged in his eyes, and with a thought, a huge demonic diagram appeared in the void. The demonic diagram rotated, and all of the Yuan Qi was smoothed out. Under his control, the Yuan Qi poured into the damaged sky and earth, and the terrifying crack was quickly mended. As such, the fusion of the Chaos Heaven's mystic realm was several times faster. In a blink of an eye, more than half of it was fused. Boom! The entire grotto heaven became even more resilient. An ancient tree that floated in the void appeared. With the appearance of the Chaos Tree, a massive gas began to appear. The entire grotto heaven suddenly stabilized. Qin Feng sensed that countless Yuan Qi seemed to intertwine and transform in the crystal walls, forming a stable cycle. A perfected aura appeared the moment it appeared. Up in the void, everyone was taken aback. What kind of tree is this? It actually allowed his grotto heaven to go through its newborn phase, upgrading it from a minute grotto heaven to a small-scale grotto heaven. Typical martial Dao experts would need at least 100 years of operation to break out of its newborn phase and upgrade it to a small-scale grotto heaven. MT Mang's 3 Banes, Perfected Lord Thundercloud, Perfected Lord Black Wind, and company found it unbelievable. This was too heaven-defying. Even inherited teachings disciples of large sects, who had large sects backing them, would need more than a decade of operation before they could take this step. Ka-cha! Long Junyan nearly shattered his teeth from clenching them. He was driven mad with jealousy as a horrifying killing intent caused his handsome face to contort. This is the legendary Divine Void spiritual root, the Chaos Tree. The Siren Queen recognized the origin of the giant tree at a glance. Great! It seems like I'm going to strike it rich this time. The Siren Queen couldn't hide the smile in her beautiful eyes. She clapped her palms, and 7 or 8 black balls of nothingness appeared, bombarding the grotto heaven like comet. Rumble! A series of terrifying muffled thunders sounded as if heaven and earth were falling apart. 7 or 8-minute grotto heavens exploded at the same time, surging violently as a terrifying force penetrated deep into the crystal walls. Rumble! In the center of the grotto heaven, Qin Feng, who had endured most of the force, only had time to let out a furious roar before he was turned into a bloody pulp by the torrent. His entire body was shattered inch by inch. Great, he's dead now. Long Junyun's spirits were lifted. Perfected Lord Ziwu, don't be too happy. According to what we country bumpkins know, Qin Feng won't die even if his body is shattered, unless his soul is completely destroyed. Perfected Lord Thundercloud's tone was indifferent. Long Junyun's face darkened. Sure enough, countless rays of light blossomed in the grotto heaven. With a drop of blood as the center, all the flesh and bones reassembled, and Qin Feng instantly appeared on the spot, intact and unharmed. He's still alive. The Siren Queen frowned. She had never seen such a troublesome martial arts overlord in her life. No wonder Gong Ao and the others asked me to take action. The Siren Queen's eyes were filled with killing intent. If such a troublesome enemy was allowed to grow, he might become a peerless enemy of Gong Ao's. Today, I won't forgive you. She was going to use the true means of a sage. She formed a seal with her hands, and a layer of light blue surged in her eyes. With her as the center, the void within a radius of 10,000 miles began to tremble. Even though they were thousands of miles away, the 6 of them still felt as small as ants, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. Within the grotto heaven, Qin Feng felt an aura of impending death. That aura made the grotto heaven feel as if doomsday had arrived, and all kinds of signs of withering appeared. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.